Chapter 34-25. Ecliptic Ancient City, Flying Celestial Pavilion. Outside the window was a huge river that stretched for 10,000 miles. Huge waves surged violently, and it looked extremely majestic. Ling Xiao and Li Qingyun sat opposite each other. Both of them were sizing each other up. Ling Xiao could sense that the quasi-celestial emperor in front of him was extremely powerful. He was not someone an ordinary quasi-celestial emperor could compare to. However, such a powerful figure would actually lower himself to befriend him. This caused Ling Xiao to feel rather puzzled in his heart. "Brother Ling Xiao, are you puzzled as to why I'm so friendly to you?" The quasi-celestial emperor seemed to have seen through Ling Xiao's doubts and smiled. "That's right." Ling Xiao nodded. "Brother Qingyun, you're a big shot in the creation celestial court. You're powerful and influential. Not to mention celestial kings. Even ordinary quasi-celestial emperors are not worthy of your attention. May I know what's so special about me that makes you treat me differently?" Ling Xiao did not hide anything from the quasi-celestial emperor, and expressed his doubts. "Brother Ling Xiao, you'll understand once you see this." The quasi-celestial emperor smiled. A light flashed in his palm, and a mysterious token that was intertwined with Tao and truth appeared. Ling Xiao took the token and extended a strand of his divine sense. He immediately sensed the contents of the token. It turned out that the Truth Celestial Court wanted to capture Ling Xiao's whereabouts within a few thousand prefectures. Anyone who could kill Ling Xiao or provide information about his whereabouts would be rewarded with an immortal emperor's secret. This is the Truth Celestial Court's wanted order? Brother Qingyun, why don't you just kill me and send me to the Truth Celestial Court to exchange for the immortal emperor's secret? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. "Brother Ling Xiao, there's something you don't know." The quasi-celestial emperor shook his head. The Creation Celestial Court and the Truth Celestial Court are old enemies. In the past, the Creation Celestial Court's ancestor, the Creation Celestial Emperor, fought side by side with the Truth Celestial Emperor. However, the Truth Celestial Emperor betrayed the Creation Celestial Emperor in the end, causing the Creation Celestial Emperor to suffer an unimaginable injury. In recent years, the Creation Celestial Court has declined, and our strength has become weaker. On the other hand, although the Truth Celestial Court did not have an immortal emperor, it has become more prosperous and powerful. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. How could I possibly send Taoist Ling Xiao to the Celestial Court of Truth? The green cloud quasi-immortal emperor smiled, and said without hiding anything. In fact, there were still some things that he had not told Ling Xiao. Based on what he knew, Ling Xiao was extremely powerful. Not only had he killed 4 immortal kings with a single sword strike, he had even destroyed the Dharma body of a quasi-immortal emperor from the Truth Immortal Court. Moreover, Ling Xiao seemed to have obtained the Origin Celestial Emperor's inheritance, and the Eternal Emperor weapon, the Sword of Eternity. If Ling Xiao was weak, the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor would not mind killing Ling Xiao, and even snatching the Origin Immortal Emperor's inheritance. However, Ling Xiao's strength was very strong. Being able to kill a quasi-immortal emperor's Dharma body meant that he already had the battle prowess of a quasi-immortal emperor. In addition, he had the Sword of Origin in his hand. It was impossible for 1 or 2 quasi-immortal emperors to take Ling Xiao down. Therefore, after much consideration, the Green Cloud Quasi-Celestial Emperor decided to befriend Ling Xiao and did not attack him. Of course, he would not say this to Ling Xiao. So that's how it is. The Truth Immortal Court is arrogant and despotic. I killed 5 of their immortal kings, and even destroyed the Dharma body of a quasi-immortal emperor. It's naturally not hard to understand why they would want to arrest me. Brother Green Cloud, thank you for telling me this. The grudge between me and the Truth Immortal Court will come to an end sooner or later. Ling Xiao said indifferently, but there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. He did not provoke the Truth Immortal Court, but the Truth Immortal Court had repeatedly provoked him. Now they had even issued an arrest warrant in the Eternal Immortal Domain. Ling Xiao was naturally filled with killing intent. When his strength increased and he broke through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm, he would not mind teaching the Truth Immortal Court a lesson. Brother Ling Xiao, have you heard of the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield? The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor smiled and changed the topic. Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield? I've never heard of it. Ling Xiao was slightly taken aback and said doubtfully. The Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield is an incomparably ancient battlefield. It's said that its origin can be traced back to countless eras ago. It's a place where several ancient immortal emperors of the immortal world quelled the dark turmoil. Not only are there inheritances of supreme experts in the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield, but there are also dark creatures and all kinds of heavenly treasures that are difficult to find in the immortal domain. If you can enter the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield, although there will be danger, there will also be great opportunities. In particular, there's an incomparably unique supreme treasure called the Eternal Fruit. If you swallow the Eternal Fruit, there's a chance to nurture the Heavenly Tao seed in your body. At that time, with your cultivation and accumulation, you'll naturally be able to break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor explained. I see. Brother Green Cloud, did you tell me about the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield because you want me to enter it? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed and he smiled faintly. That's right. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor nodded and said with a sincere expression. The Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield opens once every 1,000,000 years. Every time the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield opens, a few celestial courts will enter to kill the dark creatures. This also involves the bet between the Creation Celestial Court and the Truth Celestial Court. Every time the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield opens, the Creation Celestial Court and the Truth Celestial Court will make a bet. If one of us loses, we'll give the other party 100 prefectures. Brother Ling Xiao, I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me. In the past 3 times the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield opened, our Creation Celestial Court has lost to the Truth Celestial Court. We've lost close to 300 prefectures, which is billions of miles of territory. Now the Creation Celestial Court is only left with 700 prefectures. If we lose again, the Creation Celestial Court will become weaker, and the Truth Celestial Court will become stronger. I'm afraid that one day, the Creation Celestial Court will be annihilated and devoured by the Truth Celestial Court. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor smiled bitterly. You want me to enter the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield to help the Creation Celestial Court win? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said indifferently. That's right. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor nodded. He did not hide his thoughts at all. I'll need some time to think about it. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment before he said slowly. He could not just enter the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield to help the Creation Celestial Court based on the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor's words alone. He had to understand the situation carefully before he could make a decision. I understand. Here are some details about the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield. Brother Ling Xiao, you can take your time to learn about it. After all, there's still some time before the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield opens. If Brother Ling Xiao is willing to enter the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield and help the Creation Celestial Court, we'll do our best to help Brother Ling Xiao obtain the Eternity Fruit. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor smiled and handed a jade talisman to Ling Xiao. Then he chose to bid farewell and left with the 9th prince. Yiliang Shui, what do you think about the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he looked at Yiliang Shui and asked. Master, the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor didn't lie. The Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield is indeed very mysterious. It's a rare secret realm that opens once every 1,000,000 years. However, it's always occupied by the super forces like the Celestial Court. Ordinary people can't enter at all, let alone obtain the Eternity Fruit. I feel that Master can consider entering and help the Immortal Court obtain victory. After all, there are restrictions in the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield. Experts above the Quasi-Immortal Emperor realm are unable to enter. Only immortal kings and true immortals can enter and compete. With Master's strength, you'll definitely be able to defeat the Celestial Kings and true immortals of the Truth Celestial Court. Yiliang Shui said with a smile. He was full of confidence in Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao nodded noncommittally. He separated a wisp of his divine consciousness and sank it into the jade talisman in his palm. He began to read some information about the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield. He had to understand it thoroughly before he could make a decision. The Quasi-Immortal Emperor's information was very detailed. Although it did not involve the most confidential information, it was about the creation celestial court's exploration and development of the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield over the years. The Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was an extremely mysterious place in the eternal immortal domains. It didn't exist in the eternal immortal domains, but rather on the border. Outside of the eternal immortal domains was the boundless chaos sea, the chaotic void, and the planets and continents created by other living beings. The greatest threat to the eternal immortal domains was the creatures of darkness. No one knew where they came from, but they were incredibly powerful. It was said that even celestial emperors had died at their hands. The creatures of darkness were constantly trying to invade the eternal immortal domains, and the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was one of their entry points. It was a crack in the eternal immortal domains that allowed them to invade the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield and enter the eternal immortal domains. Therefore, every million years, the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was the place where the experts of the eternal immortal domains and the dark forest clashed. Because of its unique location, the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield nurtured some extremely rare natural treasures. This was especially true of the Fruit of Eternity. It was said that the Fruit of Eternity absorbed a sliver of the essence of the eternal Heavenly Tao. It was a mysterious fruit that could allow an immortal king to nurture a Heavenly Tao seed and break through to the Celestial Emperor level. Ling Xiao's cultivation base was already at the peak of the Immortal King realm. According to his current cultivation speed, he would need at least countless years of accumulation before he could condense the Immortal Tao seed in his body and break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. If he could get his hands on the Fruit of Eternity, it would shorten the time needed to break through to the Celestial Emperor level. Chapter 34-26. After reading the Jade Talisman left behind by the Qingyun Quasi-Immortal Emperor, Ling Xiao realized that the heavenly ancient battlefield was indeed mysterious. Although it was full of danger, it was also full of opportunities and opportunities. The Qingyun Quasi-Immortal Emperor did not hide anything from him. If he wanted to break through to the Quasi-Immortal Emperor realm, the fastest way was to go to the heavenly ancient battlefield and find the Eternity Fruit. Ling Xiao was tempted by the thought of this. However, he was not in a hurry to reply to the Qingyun Quasi-Immortal Emperor. His palm glowed, and the Shenshan Dao spirit appeared. His eyes were filled with memories. He did not expect the Emperor Lord of Kunwu Mountain to become the Shenshan Dao spirit. The Shenshan Dao spirit was a rare treasure that could help one to comprehend the Dao, and even upgrade weapons. It was extremely mysterious. However, it was extremely difficult for it to develop self-consciousness. There was only a glimmer of hope if the Shenshan Dao spirit could cultivate to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. Master, I heard that the Eternity Fruit can help one to form the Heavenly Dao seed and break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. It can also help spiritual beings of heaven and earth to develop their intelligence and increase their origin and foundation. If the Shenshan Dao spirit can consume an Eternity Fruit, he might be able to develop self-consciousness and even awaken the memories of his past life. Yi Liangshui knew the origin of the Shenshan Dao spirit and the relationship between Ling Xiao and the Emperor Lord of Kunwu Mountain. What? Ling Xiao shuddered and immediately rose to his feet. This news caused him to be unable to remain calm any longer. If the Eternity Fruit could help the Shenshan Dao spirit awaken self-consciousness and even awaken the memories of his past life, he would definitely go to the heavenly ancient battlefield. Swoosh. At this moment, a dazzling starlight came from afar and landed in front of Ling Xiao. It turned into an illusory figure. It was the Qingyun Quasi-Immortal Emperor. Brother Ling Xiao, something big has happened in the Fortune Immortal City. I have to go back to settle it. If you're willing to go to the heavenly ancient battlefield, please come to the Fortune Immortal City and meet me there. The Qingyun Quasi-Immortal Emperor shattered into a dazzling light and disappeared after saying this. This was the message that the Qingyun Quasi-Immortal Emperor left for Ling Xiao. His true body had already left the ecliptic ancient city with the 9th prince and headed to the Fortune Immortal City. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with light. He didn't know what had happened in the Fortune Immortal City that made the Green Cloud Quasi-Celestial Emperor leave in such a hurry. He didn't even have the time to bid farewell to him. However, no matter what, he had already decided to go to the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield. Ling Xiao did not head to the Fortune Immortal City immediately. Instead, he booked a courtyard in the Flying Immortal Tower and went into seclusion to cultivate. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor had given him a Gung Metal Dao spirit. If he could integrate it into the Heaven-Devouring Sword, it would definitely increase the power of the Heaven-Devouring Sword greatly. In the future, it would not be impossible for it to be upgraded to the level of an Eternal Emperor weapon. Ling Xiao was in seclusion in the courtyard, fusing the Gung Metal Dao spirit and the Heaven-Swallowing Sword into one, while the Qilin Immortal King and Yi Liangshui were protecting Ling Xiao in the courtyard. A month later, Ling Xiao exited seclusion. Let's go to the Fortune Immortal City. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. The Fortune Immortal City was the capital of the Fortune Immortal Court. There were countless experts at the True Immortal and Immortal King realm. There were even many quasi-immortal emperors. When the Qilin Immortal King and Yi Liangshui heard this, they were both surprised and overjoyed. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Especially Yi Liangshui, who could finally return to his family. Returning to the Yi family made him excited and nervous at the same time. Swoosh! The Qilin Immortal King instantly leaped up and tore through the void with Ling Xiao. They quickly teleported in the direction of the Fortune Immortal City. As the capital of the Fortune Immortal City, the Fortune Immortal City was naturally the most majestic and magnificent immortal city in the entire Fortune Immortal Court. From afar, it looked like a huge and dazzling star that floated in the 9 heavens. The sun was scorching and dazzling, and auspicious qi rose. Strands of origin energy intertwined with each other, and there were runes and divine chains circling around. The Fortune Immortal City contained layers upon layers of formations that were set up by immortal emperors. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even if an immortal emperor came personally, it would be difficult for him to gain any benefits. The Fortune Immortal City spanned 1,000,000 miles. It was surrounded by pavilions, terraces, and immortal palaces, floating immortal mountains and a sea of clouds. It looked majestic and mysterious. Ling Xiao rode on the Qilin Immortal King and arrived at the Fortune Immortal City. He could not help but exclaim in admiration when he felt the terrifying aura emanating from the Fortune Immortal Court. Although immortal kings were strong, they were still as insignificant as ants in front of the Fortune Immortal City. This was the power of the Fortune Immortal Court. This was the foundation of a superpower that had dominated the eternal immortal domain for countless eras. On both sides of the huge city gate, there were many guards wearing immortal armor and surrounded by immortal light. They were guarding the city with cold gazes. Those city guards were all true immortal realm experts, and the leader was a commander realm expert who had even reached the immortal king realm, causing people to be intimidated at the sight of him. To enter the Fortune Immortal City, one had to pay a certain amount of immortal source stones. Ling Xiao and the Qilin Immortal King followed behind the long queue and paid some immortal source stones to enter the Fortune Immortal City. The Fortune Immortal City was extremely lively and prosperous. As far as the eye could see, the streets crisscrossed and stretched for millions of miles. There were many shops on both sides of the wide streets. Some immortal Dao experts dressed as waiters and waiters were shouting at the entrance. There were also many hawkers who had set up stalls on both sides of the street, selling all kinds of rare treasures. Ling Xiao felt as if he had arrived at Immortal City. Master, this is the Fortune Immortal City. It is the supreme immortal court founded by immortal Emperor Fortune. In ancient times, it was said to be the overlord of the eternal immortal domain. However, after so many years, the Fortune Immortal Court has declined, and is no longer as glorious as it was in the past. Yi Liangshui explained slowly. I see. I wonder what kind of person immortal Emperor Fortune was. Ling Xiao nodded as a look of longing appeared in his eyes. He had learned a lot about the Fortune Immortal Court over the past few days. Immortal Emperor Fortune was said to be extremely powerful in the past. He had many immortal Emperor realm experts under his command. He had dominated the eternal immortal domain, and was invincible in both heaven and earth. That was the supreme expert who had once suppressed the Dark Age, annihilated countless dark creatures, and established the immortal court of creation. Legend had it that even the truth immortal emperor was once a subordinate of immortal Emperor Fortune. However, the truth immortal emperor betrayed Fortune and severely injured him. As a result, the Fortune Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court were mortal enemies. Master, the Fortune Immortal Court's Emperor clan has always had a good reputation. They are incomparably humble, and there are very few arrogant and domineering people among them. An arrogant person like the ninth prince, Li Chongsheng, was actually a heretic. Master, if you want to cooperate with them, you don't have to worry about being tricked. Yi Liangshui reminded him. I understand. Let's go to the Green Cloud Immortal Palace and find the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor. Ling Xiao nodded and let Yi Liangshui lead the way to the Green Cloud Immortal Palace. Rumble. Suddenly, heaven and earth shook violently, and the streets trembled violently. From the city gate in the distance, a group of iron horsemen charged through the streets. It was unknown how many people had been killed or crippled by the collisions. It was a group of giant flood dragons covered in black scales. Their bodies were dazzling with starlight, and their auras were extremely powerful. They had actually reached the true immortal realm. On the backs of the giant flood dragons were a group of women in red armor. Each of them was valiant and had a cold expression on their faces, as if they were superior. In particular, the leader of the group was a woman with a voluptuous figure. Her face was as cold as ice, and she was extremely arrogant. Her skin was as white as snow, and she held a long red whip in her hand. She kept whipping the giant flood dragons as she charged forward. Instantly, the people on the streets were thrown off their horses. The pedestrians on the streets dodged, and their eyes were filled with anger and awe. It's actually this arrogant and domineering young princess. Everyone get out of the way. Otherwise, we won't be able to seek justice even if we die. Sigh, this young princess is the second prince's younger sister. The second prince is now like the sun in the midday sky in the celestial court of creation. His talent is superb, and he even has the potential to surpass the crown prince. This young princess is also becoming more and more arrogant and domineering. What can we do? It's all because the emperor is severely injured, and the crown prince and the second prince are fighting to the death for the throne. The celestial court of creation is also in a precarious situation. Isn't that so? Who knows when the celestial court of creation will be destroyed by the celestial court of truth? A group of onlookers discussed animatedly, and their eyes were filled with resentment as they looked at the young princess in red armor. The steel torrent was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they were in front of Ling Xiao. Get lost! The young princess suddenly shouted, and the red whip in her hand lashed out at Ling Xiao. A cold light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes, and he glanced at Yi Liangshui indifferently. Yi Liangshui immediately looked embarrassed. He had just said that the reputation of the monarch race in the celestial court of creation was very good, and there were very few arrogant and domineering people. Who would have thought that he would be slapped in the face by this young princess in the blink of an eye? Ling Xiao's expression was indifferent. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the red whip in the palm of his hand. Then he suddenly pulled and pulled back, and an unparalleled divine force gushed out from his palm, slamming into the young princess's body, causing her to tremble violently. Her chi and blood surged, and the flood dragon beast's charge came to a halt. Roar! The eyes of the Qilin Immortal King were filled with an icy cold killing intent. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted from his mouth, causing the surrounding space to tremble. An incomparably terrifying sound wave blasted over, enveloping the horde of flood dragons and gigantic beasts, as though it was corporeal. The flood dragon beasts were only at the true immortal realm. How could they withstand the roar of immortal King Qilin? Instantly, all of them trembled, and they stood on the spot anxiously. Their eyes were filled with fear, and it was as though they couldn't help but kneel down in the next moment. Who are you? How dare you block the path of this young princess? The young princess's expression was incomparably cold, and she looked at Ling Xiao doubtfully. Then, when her gaze landed on the immortal King Qilin, her eyes lit up, revealing an incomparably blazing light. She could see that the immortal King Qilin was extraordinary, and only such amount was worthy of the young princess's status. Instantly, she had the thought of taking him for herself. Chapter 34-27. Princess Redrobed could tell that although Ling Xiao was an immortal king and had an extraordinary aura, he was very unfamiliar to her. He was not one of the big shots or geniuses she knew in the immortal court of fate. Therefore, contempt appeared in her eyes. You rode your horse wildly and injured countless people. Of course, that's your business and has nothing to do with me. However, you shouldn't have provoked me. Ling Zhao's eyes were cold as he glanced at Princess Hongyi. Provoked you? Who do you think you are? Brat, you actually dare to block this princess's path. However, I'm in a good mood today, so I won't lower myself to your level. Quickly offer your Qilin mount to me, and I'll spare your life. The red-dressed princess sneered. The Qilin Immortal King was furious. Who would have thought that the princess would take a fancy to him and want him to be her mount? The Qilin Immortal King was a supreme-grade immortal herb. Although he only had the cultivation of an immortal king due to his transformation, his future was limitless. However, its future was limitless. If it could grow up, it would not be impossible for it to become a powerful immortal emperor. He was extremely proud. Although he was willing to acknowledge Ling Xiao as his master, it was only because Ling Xiao could convince him. But who the hell was this princess in red? How dare she make the great Qilin Immortal King her mount? Little girl, who do you think you are? How dare you make me your mount? If you don't want to die, get over here and be my mount. The Qilin Immortal King looked at Ling Xiao. He was very confident and immediately cursed at the princess. Did you hear that? My mount doesn't want to follow you. I'm in a bad mood today. If you don't want to die, you'd better scram now. It's not too late. Ling Xiao sneered, and a trace of cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. He knew how powerful the celestial court of fortune was. Although he had promised the immortal Emperor Qingyan to go to the heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, it did not mean that he was easy to bully. Perhaps he would have to use this red-clothed princess to establish his authority. Only then would he be able to show off his strength. Otherwise, wouldn't those people think that he could be bullied at will? I think you have a death wish. The red-clothed princess's eyes were filled with murderous intent as she suddenly shouted. She was arrogant by nature and was used to being arrogant in the Fortune Immortal City. Because she had the support of the second prince, no one dared to provoke her. Even the crown prince's men had to be courteous to her. She hadn't expected that a mere immortal king from outside would actually dare to speak such arrogant words. Killing intent instantly arose in her heart. The fiery red whip in her hand produced an explosive sound as it lashed out at Ling Zhao's face. At the same time, a light flashed in her palm, and a sword-shaped rune appeared. It exuded an ancient and terrifying aura, and it was instantly activated by her. As soon as this sword talisman appeared, the heavens and the earth instantly changed color. Winds blew and clouds surged, and the surrounding space trembled slightly. In the next moment, a brilliant sword light that was 10,000 miles long rose from the 9 heavens, and slashed down toward Ling Xiao. This was the most powerful attack left behind by a half-immortal emperor. It was fierce to the extreme. Although the red-clothed princess was arrogant and domineering, she was no fool. She knew that the whip might not be able to hit Ling Xiao. However, this sword talisman was different. As soon as the sword talisman appeared, sword light flashed in all directions. It was as powerful as a half-immortal emperor's attack. Even a peak immortal king expert would die without a doubt. She wanted to kill Ling Xiao and snatch the Qilin Immortal King away. Seeing how vicious the red-clothed princess was and how fierce her killing intent was, Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Boom. Ling Xiao casually blasted out an incomparably ferocious fist print. And in an instant, the long whip was directly blasted into pieces, completely exploding into pieces. A powerful Immortal King weapon was completely destroyed in his hands just like that. Then the sky-devouring sword in his hand released a dazzling sword light. He also swung his sword to meet the attack. The fierce sword light seemed to be able to destroy everything as it collided with the sword talisman in the void. Boom. It was as if a brilliant immortal Dao star had exploded, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. The sword light that filled the sky was swept away. Ling Zhao's sky-devouring sword was extremely fierce as it slashed down toward the red-clothed princess. What? Princess Red Jade's expression changed drastically. Her beautiful face lost all color as her eyes were filled with disbelief. She had never imagined that not only was her sword talisman unable to kill Ling Xiao, but Ling Xiao was also able to unleash such a powerful combat strength. Not only did he destroy her sword talisman, but he also wanted to kill her with a single strike. She was completely flustered as she hurriedly shouted, "Save me!" Rumble. However, when the dazzling sword light landed, it instantly destroyed the defensive sword light around her. It then slashed her body, causing her body to explode. So, a resplendent beam of starlight appeared. It was the red-clothed princess primordial spirit. She instantly used a teleportation technique to escape into the distance. Ling Xiao held the sky-devouring sword in his hand with an extremely cold expression. Another sharp sword light slashed down in an attempt to completely shatter the red-clothed princess primordial spirit. Stop. At that moment, a dignified and cold voice resounded in the void. However, Ling Xiao turned a deaf ear to it as though he did not hear it at all. The sword light in his hand slashed down and struck the red-clothed princess primordial spirit, completely destroying her primordial spirit. At that moment, the red-clothed princess primordial spirit was completely destroyed. Rumble. Because of Ling Xiao's sword strike, figures with extremely terrifying auras suddenly appeared in the Fortune Immortal City. They swept across the sky towards the city. At the same time, the powerful array above the Fortune Immortal City seemed to have been activated. Immortal Dao runes intertwined, containing extremely terrifying killing intent. They formed a huge immortal Dao net above the 9 heavens, locking down Ling Xiao below. Kacha. An extremely terrifying figure descended from the 9 heavens and transformed into a middle-aged man wearing a black dragon robe and a crown on his head. His expression was extremely gloomy and his eyes were filled with extremely cold killing intent. "I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me?" The middle-aged man said coldly. His voice was like thunder that shook the surrounding void. "Oh no, it's the 9 Quasi-Emperor." Yi Liangshui's body trembled as he quickly transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao. It turned out that the 9 Quasi-Emperor was the second prince's guardian. He was extremely powerful, and was not any weaker than the Qingyun Quasi-Emperor. Moreover, it was said that the red-clothed princess was the descendant of the 9 Quasi-Emperor. Therefore, the 9 Quasi-Emperor was so furious after Ling Xiao killed the red-clothed princess with a single sword strike that he immediately revealed himself. "Who are you?" Ling Xiao was extremely indifferent as he asked in return. The surrounding people were shocked. They did not expect this unfamiliar celestial king to be so courageous. He even dared to question the 9 Quasi-Emperor. Was he not afraid of death? The 9 Quasi-Emperor stared at Ling Xiao and laughed out of anger. "Good, very good. It has been many years since someone dared to say such things in front of me. Since you killed Hong, or you'll pay with your life for her." The 9 Quasi-Emperor's expression instantly turned cold and emotionless. Evil Yin-Chi circled around him as lightning intertwined. An extremely terrifying killing intent locked onto Ling Xiao. Rumble. He slammed his palm down on Ling Xiao. This palm contained a peerless killing intent, as if it was going to kill Ling Xiao completely. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He held the sky-devouring sword in his hand, and the sword intent around him soared to the sky. The 3 swords of origin were about to be completely activated at any time. Ling Xiao did not show any fear in the face of this powerful Quasi-Emperor. Instead, his battle intent soared, and he wanted to fight this Quasi-Emperor. Crack! At this moment, a dazzling sword light swept across the void. It seemed to have destroyed the void in all directions in an instant. It was extremely mysterious and unpredictable. The sword light arrived first, blocking in front of the 9 Quasi-Immortal Emperor in an instant, and completely turning his palm print into dust. In the void, the sky was dazzling. An elegant and dignified middle-aged man walked over, and appeared in front of the 9 Quasi-Emperor. It was the Qingyun Quasi-Emperor. When the 9 Quasi-Emperor saw the appearance of the Qingyun Quasi-Emperor, his face turned extremely gloomy. "Li Qingyun, are you trying to stop me?" The Qingyun Quasi-Emperor smiled indifferently. "Brother 9, why are you so angry? Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao is my esteemed guest. I wonder if Brother Jiyue can spare him this once on account of my meager face?" "Impossible. He killed Hong so he has to pay with his life for Hong." The 9 Quasi-Emperor was extremely unyielding as he sneered. The green cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor glanced at the red-clothed princess, who had died. He also felt a little troubled. He knew the relationship between the Nine Quasi-Emperor and Princess Hongyu. Therefore, he knew that the Nine Quasi-Emperor would not let this matter rest. Brother Nine, Ling Xiao is my esteemed guest. I will protect him today. If you are not convinced, why don't we have a fight? The Qingyan Quasi-Emperor's eyes flashed as he smiled indifferently. It was rare for him to be so unyielding. The Nine Quasi-Emperor's face instantly turned ugly. He did not expect the Qingyan Quasi-Emperor to be so unyielding in order to protect Ling Xiao. One had to know that the Qingyan Quasi-Emperor's strength was extremely terrifying. Even the Nine Quasi-Emperor did not have the confidence to take him down. Good, very good. Li Qingyan, I will remember you. And Ling Xiao, I will also remember you. One day, if you fall into my hands, I will make you beg for death. The Nine Quasi-Emperor looked coldly at the Qingyan Quasi-Emperor. His eyes filled with killing intent. Then he glared fiercely at Ling Xiao before turning to leave. He had actually given up. In an instant, everyone looked at the Qingyan Quasi-Emperor with eyes full of respect. They did not expect the Qingyan Quasi-Emperor to be so powerful that even the usually unyielding and domineering Nine Quasi-Emperor was so afraid of him. At the same time, they looked at Ling Xiao curiously. This unfamiliar immortal king was actually the esteemed guest of the Qingyan Quasi-Emperor. Many of the important figures among them suddenly had the intention to befriend him. Brother Ling Xiao, have you made your decision to come to the Fortune Immortal City? The Qingyan Quasi-Emperor smiled at Ling Xiao with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Yes, I have made my decision. I am willing to enter the heavenly ancient battlefield. Ling Xiao said slowly. Good, very good. Brother Ling Xiao, please follow me to the Qingyan Immortal Palace. The Qingyan Quasi-Emperor was overjoyed and immediately led Ling Xiao to the Qingyan Immortal Palace. Chapter 34-28. Green Cloud Immortal Palace. This was an immortal palace that floated in the 9 heavens. It was made of divine Tao celestial metal, and was shimmering with celestial light. Celestial Tao runes circled above the immortal palace, and it contained an extremely cold murderous aura. This was a formation left behind by generations of powerhouses that could easily kill celestial kings. When Ling Xiao and the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor arrived at the Green Cloud Immortal Palace, there was already someone waiting for them. It was a young man in a purple dragon robe with a jade crown on his head. He was handsome, elegant, and extraordinarily refined. His eyes were as bright and wise as the stars, and he had a gentle smile on his face. He gave off a dignified and mysterious aura. When he saw the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor, he immediately bowed slightly and said, "Greetings, Imperial Uncle." Then his gaze fell on Ling Xiao as he smiled faintly and said, "This must be Senior Ling Xiao, right?" "That's right. Let me introduce you. This is Ling Xiao, the one who killed 4 celestial kings and destroyed a quasi-immortal emperor's avatar in the Truth Celestial Court. You should get to know him better in the future." The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor nodded. "Brother Ling Xiao, this is the Crown Prince of the Creation Celestial Court." Then, the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor introduced the young man to Ling Xiao. As it turned out, the young man in the purple dragon robe was the Crown Prince of the Creation Celestial Court, Li Wuji. While Li Wuji was sizing up Ling Xiao was also sizing him up. Ling Xiao could see that Li Wuji's cultivation base had reached the 9th heaven of the Celestial King realm, which was similar to his cultivation base. Moreover, it seemed like Li Wuji had cultivated some kind of powerful celestial emperor's inheritance. He was surrounded by purple qi and dragon qi, and he exuded a mysterious and powerful dragon's might. At the same time, there seemed to be the intertwining of the law of creation. It was obvious that he was not an ordinary person. Ling Xiao could also see that although the Crown Prince of the Creation Celestial Court looked very gentle and polite, there was a lofty arrogance in his bones. "Greetings, Your Highness." Ling Xiao replied calmly. Everyone took their seats in the Green Cloud Immortal Palace. Soon, the servants served many delicacies, immortal herbs, spiritual fruits, and nectar. These were all rare treasures in the immortal realm, but for the immortal court of fortune, these were just ordinary things. "Thank you, fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, for being willing to help us enter the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield." The green cloud quasi-immortal emperor raised his cup and smiled at Ling Xiao. You don't have to be so polite, Taoist Qingyan. The main reason why I'm willing to enter the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield is because of the eternity fruit. Ling Xiao was incomparably frank as he revealed his intentions. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Ling Xiao. After entering the heavenly ancient battlefield, the creation celestial court will do our best to help fellow Taoist Ling Xiao obtain the eternity fruit, so that you can condense the heavenly Tao seed as soon as possible and break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Immortal Emperor Qing Yunji replied with a smile, officially making a promise. Senior Ling Xiao, I heard that there's still some time before the ancient battlefield opens. Why don't you let me bring Senior Ling Xiao around the Fortune Immortal City for a tour? There are many places worth visiting in the Fortune Immortal City. The Crown Prince Li Wuji smiled at Ling Xiao, trying to get closer to him. Thank you, Your Highness. However, I plan to stay in the Yi family for the time being, so I won't disturb fellow Taoist Qing Yunji and Your Highness. Ling Xiao said calmly. He had already promised Yi Liangshui to bring him back to the Yi family. After hearing Ling Xiao's words, Yi Liangshui's eyes were instantly filled with gratitude. Yi family? Li Wuji's eyes were filled with a trace of surprise. His gaze fell on Yi Liangshui, and he immediately understood. Then he smiled faintly and said, So it's brother Yi Liangshui. I heard that the Yi family is preparing to select the Yi family's divine son recently. I remember that brother Yi Liangshui was a strong candidate for the Yi family's divine son candidate back then. This time, with Senior Ling Xiao's support, perhaps you'll have a chance to compete for the position of the divine son. Your Highness, you must be joking. With Yi Qin and Yi Qing around, how can I be the divine son of the Yi family? Yi Liangshui said with a wry smile. His eyes were filled with bitterness. The reason why Yi Liangshui had come to the primitive world from the eternal immortal domains was not only because he had the protection of a patriarch of the Yi family, but also because the Yi family had Yi Qin and Yi Cheng, the two chosen sons of heaven. Although Yi Liangshui was the son of the Yi family's patriarch, he still paled in comparison to Yi Cheng and Yi Qin. No matter what, I think brother Yi Liangshui should return to the Yi family as soon as possible. I heard that the Yi family's ancestor doesn't have much time left. I'm afraid he'll pass away soon. Li Wuji's eyes flashed as he said slowly. What? Yi Liangshui's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He immediately looked at Ling Xiao with a pleading gaze. Ling Xiao nodded and said, I'll go back to the Yi family with you. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Yi Liangshui's eyes were filled with gratitude. Then Ling Xiao stood up and prepared to bring Yi Liangshui back to the Yi family to bid farewell to the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor and Crown Prince Li Wuji. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor's eyes flickered as he looked at Ling Xiao's back. He then looked at Li Wuji and asked, Wuji, what do you think of Ling Xiao? He's extremely talented and shrewd. He'll definitely become a quasi-immortal emperor in the future. If he doesn't pass away, he might even be able to attain the supreme immortal emperor realm. Li Wuji said slowly, expressing his opinion of Ling Xiao. I didn't expect someone as proud as you to think so highly of Ling Xiao. The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor smiled slightly, and a hint of relief could be seen in his eyes. He was a member of the Crown Prince's faction, so naturally he would think of the Crown Prince. However, he knew that the Crown Prince was arrogant by nature. In the entire Fortune Immortal City, there were only a few people who could catch his eye. Even his second brother, who was extremely talented, did not catch his attention. Now that he thought highly of Ling Xiao, the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor was naturally pleased. Royal Uncle, although I'm arrogant, it's because the others are too mediocre. However, I also understand that there's always someone better than you. Senior Ling Xiao is not an enemy. I have a feeling that if I can maintain a good relationship with him, he'll be a great help to the Fortune Immortal Court. Li Wuji's eyes flickered as he spoke with a hint of wisdom. If that's the case, why don't you follow Ling Xiao and General Yi back to the Yi clan? You should know that the Yi clan is in a lot of trouble now. If General Yi returns now, it'll be extremely awkward. Why don't you follow them back and use your identity as the Crown Prince to intimidate them? The Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor asked curiously. Royal Uncle, although the Yi clan is in trouble, I believe that Senior Ling Xiao can easily resolve it with his means. This is a good opportunity for Senior Ling Xiao to completely subdue General Yi. Why should I go and do him a favor? If I do that, I'm afraid it'll backfire and make Senior Ling Xiao think I'm a person who plays tricks. Since I've decided to maintain a good relationship with him, I'll naturally treat him with sincerity, Li Wuji said with a smile. Good, very good. Wuji, do you know? That's what I admire the most about you. As a ruler, although you have to scheme, if you can, you still have to do it openly. You can't be too obsessed with schemes. You're much better than Wushuang in this aspect. The green cloud quasi-immortal emperor said with a smile. His eyes were filled with gratification. On the other side, Ling Xiao rode on immortal King Qilin and brought General Yi back to the Yi clan. The Yi clan was a long-lived family with a long history. It was said that they had already existed when the Fortune Immortal Court was first established. An ancestor of the Yi clan was once a general under the Fortune Immortal Emperor. A quasi-immortal emperor had also appeared in the Yi clan's ancestor. They were incomparably prosperous. Now the Yi clan was indeed a little weak. This was because everyone knew that the ancestor of the Yi clan did not have much lifespan left and was about to die. If the ancestor, who was a quasi-immortal emperor, died, the Yi clan would immediately fall from being a supergiant and become the most ordinary long-lived family in the Fortune Immortal City. Therefore, during this period of time, the undercurrent of the Yi clan was turbulent. Everyone in the Yi clan was not only fighting for the position of the clan master, but also for the title of the Yi clan's godchild. In that case, if the ancestor you mentioned dies, your father's position as the clan master will also be unstable. After hearing Yi Liangshui's explanation, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. That's right. Although my father's talent is extraordinary, his foundation is too weak after all. However, because he is the direct descendant of the ancestor and has the support of the ancestor, no one dares to say anything when he becomes the clan master. However, if the ancestor dies, I'm afraid it's hard to say. After all, Yi Qin and Yi Cheng's fathers, who are also my two uncles, are not weaker than my father in terms of talent. Moreover, they are extremely powerful. If they take the position of patriarch, then either Yi Qin or Yi Cheng will definitely become the Yi clan's godchild. Yi Liangshui said with a wry smile. What about Yi Qin and Yi Cheng's cultivation? Ling Xiao asked indifferently. Before I left, Yi Qin and Yi Cheng were already at the 9th heaven of the true immortal realm. Now they have probably broken through to the immortal king realm. Yi Liangshui said with a wry smile. His current cultivation was only at the true immortal realm. He had no idea how long it would take for him to break through to the immortal king realm. After all, his talent was indeed not as good as Yi Qin and Yi Cheng. Since you've helped me find the godly mountain's Tao spirit, I'll help you become the Yi clan's godchild. Ling Xiao said calmly and strode forward. Thank you, master. Yi Liangshui shuddered. His eyes reddened slightly. The Yi clan's ancestral ground was located to the east of the Fortune Immortal City. It occupied a floating godly mountain and opened up a small world. Most of the people living on the floating godly mountain were only the Yi clan's branch members. The core members of the clan lived in the small world they had opened up. As soon as Ling Xiao and Yi Liangshui arrived at the Yi clan's ancestral ground, they immediately felt an icy murderous intent locking onto them. Who's there? How dare you trespass on my Yi clan's territory? An icy voice echoed in the rift, followed by a few whooshes. Over 10 guards in armor and riding flying immortal beasts descended from the sky and surrounded Ling Xiao, Yi Liangshui, and the others. The guards' eyes were extremely cold. Their murderous intent lingered in the air. They were all true immortal realm experts. The leader of the guards had even reached the peak 9th heaven of the true immortal realm, half-immortal emperor realm. This was the strength of the Yi clan. Even the ordinary guards were true immortal realm experts. Chapter 34-29. Yi Liangshui? Right at this moment, someone suddenly exclaimed. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Greetings, young master. Recognizing Yi Liangshui, the guards hurriedly bowed to him. Get up, Why are you bowing to the traitor of the Yi family? Who does he think he is? It won't be long before the young master of the Yi family becomes God's son Yi Qin. The leader of the guard sneered with a trace of cold killing intent in his eyes. How dare you disrespect me? Yi Liangshui's eyes flashed with a cold light, and his face was filled with anger. He never thought that a mere guard commander of the Yi family would dare to be so impudent to him. However, he knew that something big must have happened to the Yi family. Disrespect you? Who do you think you are? Yi Liangshui. You betrayed the Yi family and stole the patriarch's healing elixir. Now that the patriarch doesn't have much lifespan left, it's all because of you. How dare you come back? Guards, take him down. The patrol commander sneered and immediately waved his hand to order the surrounding guards. Let's see who dares. Yi Liangshui was shocked and furious. He stared at the guard commander and said, You said that the patriarch doesn't have much lifespan left and I took the patriarch's healing elixir? That's right. Everyone in the Yi family knows about this. Do you still want to deny it? The guard commander sneered again and then shouted sternly, Guards, do you still dare to disobey? Why aren't you taking him down? The guards were hesitant at first, but after hearing the commander's words, they gritted their teeth and pounced on Yi Liangshui. How dare you? Yi Liangshui's eyes flashed with a cold light. Blazing starlight appeared around him, and his fist was unparalleled. Bang, bang, bang. Although the guards were strong, how could they be a match for Yi Liangshui? In an instant, they were all pushed back. You're courting death. The guard commander's eyes flashed with killing intent. He pulled out a black immortal weapon saber and slashed at Yi Liangshui. Noisy. At this moment, the Qilin Immortal King suddenly shouted lazily. Then it stretched out a purple claw, sweeping across the sky. It was extremely sharp. Rumble. The immortal weapon saber was instantly shattered by the Qilin Immortal King's claw. After that, it slammed onto the body of the guard commander, causing him to tremble violently. He coughed out blood and fell from the sky. I say, Commander Yi, it seems like you're not doing well in the Yi clan. Even a small guard commander dares to kill you. Immortal King Qilin mocked. Yi Liangshui was anxious and angry. His eyes were filled with embarrassment. Kill him. At this moment, Ling Xiao suddenly opened his mouth and said indifferently, Yes, master. Yi Liangshui's heart trembled, and he immediately nodded. Whoosh. Immortal light gushed out from Yi Liangshui's palm, and he instantly drew a sharp immortal sword. Then he swung the sword in the air and slashed down at the guard commander. Stop! At this moment, a loud roar was heard from the void. At the same time, an incomparably sharp saber light slashed down from the sky and targeted Yi Liangshui. It was actually trying to kill him with a single slash. Yi Liangshui was just about to block it when Ling Xiao's voice rang in his ears again. Just attack. Don't worry about anything else. Ling Xiao said calmly. Then he punched out in the air. Rumble. The boundless fist print shook the sky in all directions. That saber light shattered with a loud bang. Then, the boundless fist print rose up like a divine sun from the 9 heavens, and blasted on the figure that had just appeared in midair. Immediately, the figure staggered back. Golden blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with shock and anger. At this moment, Yi Liangshui gritted his teeth and slashed down with the sword in his hand, killing the guard commander on the spot. Rumble. The starlight that filled the sky was ethereal and dazzling. A figure with an incomparably powerful aura descended from the sky. It was an immortal king. He stared at Yi Liangshui, his eyes filled with cold killing intent. At the same time he glanced at Ling Xiao, seeming somewhat bewildered. After seeing Yi Liangshui appear, he indeed had the thought of striking first to gain the upper hand and killing Yi Liangshui completely. However, he did not expect that Yi Liangshui would actually have such a powerful immortal king by his side to protect him. For a moment he did not dare to make a move. Uncle Yi Fu, you actually want to kill me? Seeing the middle-aged immortal king in front of him, Yi Liangshui's eyes were filled with disbelief. The immortal king in front of him was called Yi Fu. He was once his father's most capable subordinate, and had been very good to him when he was young. He did not expect that Yi Fu would actually attack him now. Yi Liangshui, you stole the ancestors' healing divine medicine, and your father protected you. Both of you are traitors of the Yi family. Now your father is already detained in the dungeon. As for you, could it be that you still want to resist? Yi Fu sneered. His eyes were filled with indifference. How dare you? Who gave you the right to capture my father? Where is the ancestor? I want to see the ancestor. Yi Liangshui was shocked and furious. He shouted repeatedly, his eyes filled with incomparable anger and killing intent. You want to see the ancestor? Are you worthy? As for your father, as long as you obediently surrender, I can lock you in the dungeon. At that time, you and your father will naturally be able to see each other. Yi Fu sneered. Rumble. At this moment, rays of dazzling starlight bloomed from afar. A few figures with incomparably powerful auras soared into the sky like 3 dazzling suns. They instantly occupied the other 3 positions and vaguely trapped Ling Xiao and Yi Liangchen in the middle. They were 3 incomparably powerful immortal kings. The leader had a cold face and a sinister expression. He wore a black robe and looked at Yi Liangchen with undisguised killing intent. Yi Liangshui had already recognized him. He was Yi Qin's father, Yi Delu, and also his father's cousin. When Yi Fu saw Yi Delu, he immediately revealed a flattering smile and said, Greetings, second master. How should we deal with Yi Liangshui? He even brought back an extremely powerful immortal king. He doesn't seem to be easy to deal with. Yi Delu didn't even look at Yi Liangshui. His gaze landed on Ling Xiao and he said indifferently, Who are you? Which everlasting family do you come from? This is my Yi family's family matter. I hope you won't interfere. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Yi Delu was currently overflowing with power in the Yi family. He was currently competing with Yi Dajuan for the position of the Yi family's patriarch. However, Yi Liangshui was still a hidden danger, so he wanted to take the initiative and eliminate Yi Liangshui. At that time, he would kill Yi Liangshui's father. Even if the ancestor wasn't dead, the position of the patriarch could only be decided between him and Yi Dajuan. Moreover, he had greater confidence than Yi Dajuan. Therefore, in his opinion, the position of the Yi family's patriarch was already in the bag. In this way, even though Ling Zhao's aura was extraordinary, this was the Yi family after all. Not to mention an unfamiliar immortal king. Even a quasi-immortal emperor wouldn't dare to behave atrociously here. You don't need to know who I am. You only need to know that from today onwards, Yi Liangshui is the Yi family's divine son, and his father is still the Yi family's patriarch. You only need to carry out my orders. Otherwise, you can only die. Ling Zhao's voice was incomparably calm as he spoke indifferently. After he finished speaking, Yi Delu immediately laughed out loud. His eyes were filled with mockery and incomparably cold killing intent. Do you really think I'm giving you face by calling you a fellow cultivator? Not to mention you, even the princes and the emperor lord don't dare to interfere in the family matters of my Yi family. Who do you think you are? You dare to act like a master in my Yi family? Then you can die. Yi Delu sneered and suddenly waved his hand. Boom. 4 immortal kings with incomparably powerful auras surged with killing intent, and instantly locked onto Ling Xiao. Yi Liangshui, if I kill them, will it affect the Yi family? Ling Xiao ignored the immortal kings and looked at Yi Liangshui instead, asking indifferently, Master, they are all traitors of the Yi family. You can completely kill them. Yi Liangshui gritted his teeth and said, his eyes filled with incomparable gratitude. He knew that Ling Xiao could have ignored these trivial matters of the Yi family, but Ling Xiao still chose to do it. How could Yi Liangshui not know that Ling Xiao was doing it for him? Originally, he was still a little unwilling to be captured by Ling Xiao, but now he was completely convinced. He even decided to give up his life and follow him. From now on, he would never have any thoughts of betrayal. Very good. In that case, let me wipe out the rebellion of the Yi family for you. Ling Xiao said indifferently. He didn't even look at the immortal kings. A bright light shone in his palm, and the sky-swallowing sword appeared. You don't know what's good for you. Kill him. Yi Delu's eyes flashed with killing intent as he gave the order decisively. Immediately, the 4 immortal kings charged towards Ling Xiao with powerful immortal weapons in their hands. Crack. A dazzling starlight bloomed above the 9 heavens. Ling Xiao held the sky-swallowing sword in his hand and slashed in the air. Sword chi swept out, and the sky in all directions seemed to be split open. It was blazing to the extreme. That dazzling sword light seemed to contain the origin of all the worlds in the heavens. And it could also destroy reincarnation and shatter all things. It was extremely sharp. Yi Delu and the other immortal kings were all shocked and their souls almost left their bodies. Their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. They never thought that Ling Xiao's sword would be so terrifying. Rumble. The void trembled violently. Yi Delu and Yi Fu both coughed up blood. Their arms were directly cut off by the dazzling sword light, and their bodies flew out with a loud bang. The two immortal kings that Yi Delu brought were not so lucky. They were directly cut in half by Ling Xiao's sword, and even their primordial spirits were completely destroyed. Two celestial kings instantly lost their lives under Ling Xiao's sword. How is this possible? Yi Delu and Yi Fu's faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. They no longer had any arrogance. He defeated 4 immortal kings with a single sword strike, and even killed 2 of them. Could this young man in front of them be a quasi-immortal emperor? Thinking of this, their hearts couldn't help but sink. Chapter 34:30. I'll give you 2 choices now. You can either take me to the patriarch of the Yi clan, and the ancestor of the Yi clan, or you can go to hell. Ling Xiao said coldly as he stared at Yi Delu and Yi Fu. Ling Xiao stood in the air with celestial light around him. Purple chi swirled around him as a mysterious and invincible aura filled the air. In his eyes, there seemed to be a mysterious scene of the sun and moon turning upside down and the destruction of the world. The incomparably powerful aura pressed down on Yi Delu and Yi Fu, causing them to tremble. Their eyes were filled with shock and anger. Who are you? This is the Yi clan. How dare you act so presumptuously here? Are you not afraid of death? The ancestor of the Yi clan is a general of the Creation Celestial Court. The Yi clan is one of the top forces in the Creation Celestial City, and has followed the Celestial Emperor to conquer the world. If you dare to act presumptuously here, the Yi clan and the Creation Celestial Court will not let you go. Yi Delu said coldly with an ugly expression on his face. He was horrified when he saw Ling Xiao's terrifying combat strength. He could only hope that the Yi clan and the Creation Celestial Court would be able to intimidate Ling Xiao so that he would not dare to act presumptuously here. Second uncle, I'm afraid you don't know that my master is the distinguished guest of the Crown Prince and the Green Cloud Quasi-Celestial Emperor. If you want to use the Creation Celestial Court's name to suppress him, I'm afraid you've made a mistake. If you know what's good for you, quickly take me and my master to see my father and the ancestor. Otherwise, when my master makes a move, you'll definitely die. Yi Liangshui said coldly. Although Yi Delu and Yi Fu were members of the Yi clan, Yi Liangshui did not have the slightest sympathy for them. Moreover, if Ling Xiao had not followed them to the Yi clan, Yi Liangshui would have been captured by Yi Delu in an instant. At that time, both father and son would be prisoners and their lives would be at the mercy of others. The distinguished guest of the Crown Prince and the Green Cloud Quasi-Celestial Emperor. How is that possible? Yi Delu's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. His expression was a little uncertain. After all, he had already stood on the second prince's side on behalf of the Yi clan. Now that the second prince and the Crown Prince were like fire, they could not coexist. In this way, only by completely annihilating this mysterious immortal king before them, and relying on the second prince would they be able to obtain a chance at survival. Yi Delu's eyes immediately revealed a murderous intent to kill Ling. He could see that even though Ling Xiao's celestial courts, Ling's celestial court, a mere immortal king actually dared to behave atrociously in the Yi clan that possessed deep resources and reserves, and it caused his heart to be filled with unforgivable rage since a long time ago while his killing intent seethed. These 3 immortal kings were none other than Yi Dajuan and the 2 immortal kings under him. Ling Xiao defeated Yi Delu and Yi Fu with a single strike, and even killed the 2 celestial kings. Yi Dajuan saw it all, and was extremely fearful of Ling Xiao. Second brother, let's put aside our grudges for now and kill this person together. Yi Dajuan said slowly as he looked at Yi Delu with a faint gaze. Okay. Please use the treasures to kill him. Yi Delu also revealed his killing intent as he coldly said, "Boom." The 5 celestial kings joined forces at the same time. At this moment, the auras of the 5 powerful celestial kings intertwined. Divine light filled the air, and their bloodlines surged. It was as if an extremely powerful aura had awakened in the depths of the Yi clan. Suddenly, a blazing light shook the void as if it could tear the world apart. That incomparably horrifying killing intent instantly locked onto Ling Xiao. "Oh no, master, that's the Yi clan's treasures, the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror. The Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror can shoot out the Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light. Its power is extremely terrifying and can even severely injure a quasi-immortal emperor. Master must be careful." Yi Liangshui's body trembled. He suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said to Ling Xiao, "Ridiculous. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with killing intent. In his palm, the sky-devouring sword emitted a sharp light. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura. At this moment, in the depths of the Yi clan, the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror suddenly shot out a dazzling Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light. It swept across the sky as if it was going to tear Ling Xiao into pieces. The Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light was extremely terrifying. Even Ling Xiao felt a strong threat. He instantly soared into the sky. The sky-devouring sword emitted thousands of rays of light. A dazzling sword light that seemed to contain the origin of heaven and earth and the truth of all things met the destructive divine light. Crack. Even the void seemed to have cracks. The Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light was destroyed by Ling Xiao's sword. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook. This seemed to be just the beginning. In the depths of the Yi clan, a dazzling ancient mirror floated in the void. It emitted chaotic light as if it had triggered the eternal power of heaven. Its aura was mysterious and unfathomable. This was the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror. Its entire body emitted a dazzling light. It trembled slightly in the void. In an instant, rays of Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light shot toward Ling Xiao's vital points. In an instant, thousands of rays of Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light were activated at the same time. The terrifying aura even shook the entire Heaven and Earth Immortal City. Countless important figures in the city cast their gazes toward the Yi clan. Countless important figures were shocked. They did not know what had happened to the Yi clan. Even the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror had been activated. One should know that the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror was extremely powerful. Although it was not an eternal emperor weapon, it was still a top quasi-emperor celestial weapon. It could release the eternal power of heaven, and was a strong threat to even immortal emperors. Could it be that the Yi clan had encountered a powerful enemy, and had even used this treasure? Rumble. In the sky above the Yi clan, Ling Xiao was surrounded by golden light. Sword chi surged from his palm. The sky-devouring sword also emitted a dazzling divine light. One should know that the sky-devouring sword was Ling Xiao's natal treasure. It had even merged with the origin sword, an incomplete eternal emperor weapon. Its power was not inferior to a quasi-emperor celestial weapon. Ling Xiao used the origin sword in the sky above the Yi clan. The sword chi was extremely sharp, as if it could destroy everything. The Heaven and Earth Destruction Celestial Light released by the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror was annihilated by the rays of origin sword chi. It could not cause any harm to Ling Xiao at all. Kill! Ling Xiao roared. His eyes were as cold as steel. With the sky-devouring sword in his hand, he was like a dazzling ray of light. In an instant, he pierced through the void and charged toward the 5 celestial kings. Stop him! Yi Delu and Yi Dajuan's expressions changed drastically. They did not expect that even the Heaven and Earth Celestial Mirror of the Yi clan could not hurt Ling Xiao. This Ling Xiao, his strength had actually reached such a terrifying level? Their hearts sank. Could it be that they really could not stop Ling Xiao today? Boom! A loud sound shook the heavens. The origin sword chi swept across the field and enveloped the 5 celestial kings. The 3 celestial kings under Yi Delu and Yi Dajuan's command all took out powerful celestial weapons and used supreme celestial techniques to block Ling Xiao's domineering sword chi. However, under the incomparably sharp sky-devouring sword, the 3 origin swords could destroy and suppress everything. Crack! 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 The celestial weapons in the hands of the three celestial kings, and the powerful celestial techniques they used were like paper. They were instantly shattered and torn apart. They seemed so fragile. In the void, bloody light filled the air. A celestial king expert was split in half by Ling Xiao's sword. Even his primordial spirit did not have time to escape, and was killed by the sky-devouring sword. Boom! The sky-devouring sword exuded a powerful devouring force, and instantly devoured the primordial spirit of the celestial king expert. This was the devouring origin of the sky-devouring sword. It could devour everything to nourish itself. The corpse and primordial spirit of a celestial king expert were also great nourishment for the sky-devouring sword. The peerless divine might that erupted from Ling Xiao seemed to be able to shatter everything. The remaining two celestial kings were instantly terrified. They instantly turned around and wanted to escape. However, the sky-devouring sword released a dazzling light. Two sword chi slashed down from the sky and directly killed the two of them. Their flesh and primordial spirits were instantly devoured by the sky-devouring sword. In the blink of an eye, only Yi Delu and Yi Dujuan were left in the sky above the Yi family. Quick, summon the patriarch. The survival of our Yi family is at stake. We must kill such a great enemy. Yi Delu and Yi Dujuan roared angrily. Rumble! An ancient and mysterious token suddenly appeared in their palms. It released a dazzling light that instantly pierced through time and space, and reached the depths of the Yi family's ancestral land. In the depths of the Yi family's ancestral land, a purple coffin instantly opened. In the coffin, an old man with white hair and beard was surrounded by a deathly aura. His body was almost withered and he was almost completely dead. Suddenly, the old man abruptly opened his eyes, and his eyes were filled with blazing and dazzling killing intent. In the next moment, the old man soared into the sky, and an incomparably terrifying destructive power erupted from his body. This old man was shockingly a half-immortal emperor powerhouse. This was precisely the Yi family's foundation. At the same time, it was the foundation of countless everlasting families. The half-immortal emperor ancestors of everlasting families were invincible throughout their lives. Even when they were about to die, they would seal themselves in the ancestral land and leave behind the strength to fight. If the family encountered a powerful enemy, they could be awakened by the later generations and then killed the powerful enemy. Of course, after killing the powerful enemy, these half-immortal emperor ancestors would also completely die. Therefore, this kind of foundation was not many even in everlasting families. Only in a life and death crisis would they be urgently summoned, and then killed the powerful enemy. Yi Delu and Yi Dajuan stole the authority of the Yi family's patriarch. The token in their hands could summon the Yi family's foundation. Therefore, at this moment, they directly summoned the Yi family's patriarch, wanting to completely kill Ling Xiao. Not good. Why is it this patriarch? However, in the next moment, when Yi Delu and Yi Dujuan saw the old man with white hair and beard, their bodies trembled, and their eyes revealed expressions of disbelief. Chapter 34-31. Ancestor, I'm Yi Liangshui. When Yi Liangshui saw the old man with white hair and beard, his entire body trembled. His eyes were filled with incomparable surprise as he hurriedly shouted. Ling Xiao, who was holding the devouring heaven sword, and was about to unleash the supreme profundity of the three swords of origin to fight this quasi-immortal emperor ancestor, was slightly startled and stopped attacking. When the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor saw Yi Liangshui, his entire body trembled. The killing intent in his eyes gradually withdrew, revealing a trace of clarity. Liangshui, why is it you? What's going on? The quasi-immortal emperor ancestor's eyes were filled with confusion. He had sealed himself in the ancestral land of the Yi family, and became the foundation of the Yi family. However, he had never thought that he would be awakened at this time. Originally, he had wanted to use thunderous means to destroy the Yi family's great enemy. However, he had never thought that the so-called great enemy was actually Yi Liangshui, the descendant he had once valued the most. It's over, it's all over. Yi Delu and Yi Dujuan trembled all over. Their faces were incomparably pale. and their eyes were filled with incomparable despair. The family token in their hands could indeed summon the Yi family's foundation. However, this kind of summoning was random. They did not know which quasi-immortal emperor ancestor would be summoned. After all, the Yi family had more than one foundation. Coincidentally, they had never thought that the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor that would be summoned this time would actually be the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor of Yi Liangshui's lineage. This ancestor had just exhausted his lifespan 2 days ago and sealed himself in the ancestral land, becoming one of the Yi family's foundations. However, they did not expect that he would be summoned this time. If the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor of Yi Liangshui's lineage had not sealed himself in the ancestral land, they would not have dared to imprison Yi Liangshui's father privately and snatch the patriarch's token. Now they even wanted to attack Yi Liangshui, wanting to eliminate the root of the problem and completely kill Yi Liangshui. Ancestor, Yi Delu and Yi Dejuan betrayed our Yi family and imprisoned my father. Now they even want to kill me to silence me. Ancestor, please uphold justice for me. Yi Liangshui bowed respectfully to the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor, and then recounted what had happened in the Yi family. What, you dare to be so bold? After the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor heard Yi Liangshui's words, he was instantly enraged. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Immortal light gushed out of his palm. Divine chains of the immortal Tao swept across the sky and imprisoned Yi Delu and Yi Dejuan in an instant. Today, I want to see who dares to be so presumptuous with me here. The expression of the quasi-immortal emperor ancestor was incomparably cold. After that, he descended from the sky and arrived at the main hall of the Yi clan. Following the order of the Yi clan's ancestor, the Yi clan's patriarch who was imprisoned in the dungeon was immediately released. The head of the Yi family was called Yi Deqing, and he was Yi Liangshui's father. At this moment, he looked somewhat tired and weary. There were also some bloodstains on his body, but his face was filled with incomparable anger. He originally thought that Yi Delu and Yi Dejuan wanted to bring him out for repairs. However, he did not expect to see the patriarch of the Yi family and Yi Liangshui sitting in the main hall of the Yi family. His eyes were filled with joy. Son greets father. Father, you have suffered. When Yi Liangshui saw Yi Deqing, his eyes immediately turned red. He directly walked forward and knelt in front of Yi Deqing, choking with sobs. He did not dare to imagine what would have happened if he had returned a few days later. At that time, he might not even be able to see his father for the last time. When he thought of this, he hated Yi Delu and Yi Dejuan even more. His eyes were filled with incomparably cold killing intent. Good. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Yi Deqing looked at Yi Liangshui with eyes full of kindness, and said with a gratified smile. Yi Liangshui, you haven't introduced this fellow cultivator to me. Who is he? The Yi clan's patriarch's eyes flashed as he sized up Ling Xiao and said. He had already understood what had just happened, and his heart was even more unsettled. This Ling Xiao was clearly only at the Immortal King realm, but in the Yi clan, he had consecutively killed 5 Immortal King experts. His strength was unparalleled. Even the Yi clan's most precious treasure, the universe immortal mirror, could not do anything to him. The Yi clan's patriarch even had a faint feeling that even if he personally took action, it would be very difficult for him to take Ling Xiao down. Reporting to Ancestor. Reporting to Lord Father. This is Lord Ling Xiao, who is also my master. If it wasn't for Lord Ling Xiao, I would have died in the Chaos Sea long ago. Yi Liangshui laughed bitterly and said slowly. Now he was completely convinced by Ling Xiao, and his eyes were filled with respect when he looked at Ling Xiao. When the Yi clan's patriarch and Yi Deqing heard that Yi Liangshui had actually recognized Ling Xiao as his master, their faces were filled with displeasure at the beginning. After all, Yi Liangshui was the future successor of the Yi clan, and he was even the Yi clan's godson. How could he recognize someone else as his master? What was the difference between this and a follower? Not to mention Ling Xiao, even the crown prince and the second prince did not have the qualifications to be called master by Yi Liangshui. However, after listening to Yi Liangshui's narration, the Yi clan's patriarch and Yi Deqing could not help but tremble in fear. They did not expect Ling Xiao to be a living being from a desolate place like the Chaos Sea. Moreover, he had relied on his own strength to forcefully turn the primitive world into an eternal world, and even obtained a heaven-defying creation like the World Tree. In other words, as long as Ling Xiao did not die in the future, he would definitely become a celestial emperor. Moreover, Ling Xiao had killed a few great celestial kings from the Truth Celestial Court, and even killed a half-celestial emperor's Dharma body. Moreover, he had also obtained the legendary Origin Celestial Emperor's inheritance. This made the Yi clan's patriarch and Yi Diqing regard Ling Xiao even more highly. They no longer had any objections to Yi Liangshui recognizing Ling Xiao as his master. In fact, they even felt a trace of joy. After all, although the Yi clan was still an everlasting family, it was in a precarious state and rapidly weakened. It was difficult to say if they would be able to stand firm in the Fortune Celestial City in the future. However, if they had Ling Xiao's support, that might not be the case. Moreover, to have a future celestial emperor as his master, what kind of glory was this? It should be known that many half-celestial emperors would most likely not be able to become a servant of a celestial emperor. Fellow cultivator Ling Xiao, thank you for killing the traitor for my Yi clan. This old man is extremely grateful. The Yi clan's patriarch's eyes flashed as he smiled at Ling Xiao. You're welcome. Yi Liangshui is my man. Naturally, I don't want to see him being humiliated by others. Ling Xiao said indifferently as he was extremely calm. Even so, my Yi clan is greatly indebted to fellow cultivator Ling Xiao. I have a gift for fellow cultivator Ling Xiao. I hope fellow cultivator Ling Xiao will accept it. The Yi clan's patriarch's eyes flashed. Immediately, a stream of light flew out from his sleeve and floated in front of Ling Xiao. At first glance, it seemed to be the fur of some kind of immortal beast. There were lines on it that outlined the landscape. It looked like some kind of treasure map. A trace of doubt appeared in Ling Xiao's eyes. He did not immediately accept it. Fellow cultivator Ling Xiao, this is a map that I carved when I entered the heavenly ancient battlefield 1,000,000 years ago. The location on this map is very likely to contain an eternity fruit. The Yi clan's patriarch said slowly. However, the information in his words made Ling Xiao's body tremble. The eternity fruit was Ling Xiao's target in the heavenly ancient battlefield. He had never thought that he would actually obtain such a map from the Yi clan's patriarch. It seemed that Ling Xiao really could not reject the gift from the Yi clan's patriarch. However, he also understood the meaning behind the Yi clan's patriarch's gift. Thank you, fellow cultivator. This map is indeed very useful to me. Don't worry, fellow cultivator. If anything happens to the Yi clan in the future, I will definitely take care of them. Ling Xiao cupped his fists at the Yi clan's patriarch and said slowly. It was considered a promise. The Yi clan's patriarch was also full of smiles. His suspended heart was finally at ease. He did not have much time left after this incident. It would not be long before he completely fell. The only thing he was worried about was the Yi clan. Although Yi Liangshui had acknowledged Ling Xiao as his master, the Yi clan had nothing to do with Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao would help Yi Liangshui, but he might not help the Yi clan. Therefore, the Yi clan's patriarch had given a lot of thought to this map. He could see that the eternity fruit was indeed a treasure that Ling Xiao could not reject. Therefore, Ling Xiao would also take care of the Yi clan in the future for the sake of this map. This was the Yi clan's patriarch's true intention. Yi Delu Yi Dejuan, you betrayed your master and your ancestors. Your crimes are unforgivable. You will be punished by the patriarch, Yi Dacheng. In addition, Yi Liangshui will be the Yi clan's divine son from today onwards. Do you have any objections? The Yi clan's patriarch said with an extremely serious expression. His gaze swept past Yi Delu and Yi Dajuan. At the same time, he also looked at the two extremely talented members of the Yi clan, Yi Qin and Yi Cheng. Yi Delu and Yi Dajuan's faces instantly turned pale. Their eyes were filled with despair. Yi Qin and Yi Cheng were also filled with unwillingness. After all, the Yi clan's divine son was originally theirs. However, they had never thought that after the Yi clan's patriarch had revived, he would directly make the trash Yi Liangshui the divine son of the Yi clan. However, at this moment, they did not dare to disobey the Yi clan's patriarch's order. They all nodded respectfully. I know that some of you have already colluded with the second prince. However, I have to make things clear today. From today onwards, the Yi clan will support the crown prince unconditionally. If anyone dares to flirt with the second prince in private, they will be seen as betraying the clan and betraying your master and ancestors. The Yi clan's patriarch said firmly. His eyes were filled with extremely cold killing intent. Everyone in the Yi clan bowed and accepted the order. They did not dare to have any objections. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He immediately understood that the Yi clan's patriarch was expressing goodwill to him. After all, Ling Zhao was now on good terms with the Qingyun quasi-emperor. He could be considered as one of the crown prince's people. Therefore, the Yi clan's patriarch tied the Yi clan to the crown prince's chariot. It also showed that they would advance and retreat together with Ling Zhao. Yi Delu and Yi Dejuan were captured by Yi Duqing and temporarily locked up in the dungeon. As for Yi Liangshui, he was called to a secret room by the Yi clan's patriarch. The Yi clan's patriarch was nearing the end of his lifespan. Moreover, he had revived once again. He would die soon. Therefore, he wanted to impart his cultivation to Yi Liangshui before he died. Although there would be a lot of losses in this process, it would be enough to raise Yi Liangshui's cultivation to the Immortal King realm. He had left behind many arrangements to place a heavy bet on Yi Liangshui. At the same time, he also hoped that Yi Liangshui would have an extremely important position in Ling Zhao's heart. This way, if Ling Zhao became an immortal emperor one day, the Yi clan would also become extremely glorious. There might be a day when they could restore the glory of their ancestors. Chapter 34-32. Unparalleled Immortal Palace. A handsome young man in a purple immortal robe appeared in the immortal palace. He looked domineering and arrogant. His entire body radiated with a sharp and domineering presence, causing the guards in outer space to tremble. They all knelt down to greet him, not daring to say a single word. They were afraid of angering the second prince who possessed great authority. That was right. This young man was the second prince of the creation immortal court, Li Wushuang. Legend had it that when he was born, purple energy spread for 30,000 kilometers. There were even divine dragons and phoenixes coiling around him, forming all sorts of mysterious images. It was to the extent where this Prince Wushuang's body naturally nurtured a long life bone. With his talent, it was unmatched throughout the ages, powerful to the extreme. Because of this, even though he was dozens of years younger than the crown prince, Li Wuji, his current cultivation base had already caught up to the crown prince and reached the peak of the ninth heaven of the immortal king realm. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a black robe who looked extremely refined walked into the unparalleled immortal palace and bowed to Yi Wushuang. "Greetings, your highness." The middle-aged man in the black robe said respectfully, "There's no need to be so courteous, Devil Master. Is there something you need?" Although Li Wushuang was extremely arrogant, he seemed to be extremely polite to the middle-aged man in the black robe as he smiled slightly. "There's something important that I think I should let you know, your highness," the middle-aged man in the black robe said. The middle-aged man in the black robe was called Mo Kong. His origin was extremely mysterious, and his cultivation base was unfathomable. He had always been the second prince's think tank and was highly relied on. "What is it? Please tell me, Devil Master," the second prince asked in confusion. "An uninvited guest has just arrived in the Creation Immortal City. Not only did he kill Princess Redleaf, but he was also unharmed by the Nine Quasi-Immortal Emperor's furious attack. Moreover, he's the Green Cloud Quasi-Immortal Emperor's VIP." Mo Kong's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. "My brother's people. Who is this person?" The second prince's eyes flashed as he asked coldly. Who in the Creation Immortal City did not know that Princess Redleaf was one of his people? And yet, this man had the audacity to kill Princess Redcloud. That was equivalent to slapping the second prince in the face. Naturally, he could not take this lying down. His name is Ling Zhao, and he's an Immortal King expert from the Chaos Sea. His cultivation is at the 9th level of the Immortal King realm. However, his true combat prowess was far from this. It was incomparably terrifying. Before this, he had once killed 4 immortal kings with a single sword strike, and even killed the Dharma body of a quasi-immortal emperor. His talent was truly extraordinary. Furthermore, I heard that just now he went to the Yi clan and caused a huge ruckus. Even Yi Delu, Yi Dejuan, and the others were seriously injured or even killed by him. Mo Kong recounted all the information he had gathered. A ninth heaven immortal king actually has a battle prowess comparable to a quasi-immortal emperor? This person is probably the person that my elder brother sent to participate in the trials in the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield. I never imagined that such a genius would be born even in the chaotic world. A trace of shock flashed through the second prince's eyes as he spoke slowly. Although he had a longevity bone, unparalleled talent, and extraordinary strength, it was still impossible for him to kill a quasi-immortal emperor with his cultivation at the ninth heaven of the immortal king realm. At most, the battle would end in a draw. After all, although there was only a single realm between an immortal king and a quasi-immortal emperor, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. One had to know that a quasi-immortal emperor was someone who could draw upon the might of the eternal heavenly Tao. If a god or a Buddha stood in their way, they would kill a Buddha. Because of this, only those who had reached the quasi-immortal emperor realm could be considered the strongest in the eternal immortal domain. Therefore, when he heard that someone as talented as Ling Xiao had joined the crown prince's side, Prince Wushuang's expression turned somewhat unsightly. That's right. This is also why I'm here. With Ling Xiao joining the crown prince's side, it will definitely be like the sun at noon. After all, the opening of the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield is not only a battle between the celestial court of creation and the celestial court of truth, but also a battle between you and the crown prince. It concerns the future emperor of the celestial court of creation. So your highness, you must not let your guard down. Mo Kong said slowly. You're right. The trial of the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield is also the time for me and my elder brother to decide the victor. That's why I've invited Prince Long and the true phoenix of the primordial theocrats. Both of them are also extraordinarily talented, and their cultivation is not weaker than mine. With them joining the battle, I'll definitely win. The second prince sneered. His eyes were filled with confidence. Prince Long and the true phoenix? Are they the successors of the Dragon Emperor Valley and the true phoenix nest? I didn't expect that the two primordial theocrats would have successors as well. These two primordial theocrats have deep foundations, and are even stronger than the celestial court of creation. With their help, we'll definitely win the trial of the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield. However, your highness, aren't you afraid that it's easier to invite a god than to send him away? Mo Kong seemed to have a deeper meaning behind his words. Don't worry, when I return from the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield, I'll have broken through to the boundary immortal emperor realm. At that time, my longevity bone will be completely activated, and even Prince Long and the true phoenix can't do anything to me. I'm just using the two of them, so don't worry, Mo Master. The second prince said with a faint smile. It's good that the second prince understands. Mo Kong nodded. Mo Master, I'll leave the rest to you. Keep a close eye on Ling Xiao and report to me if there's anything. I'd like to see what tricks my elder brother has up his sleeves this time. Yes. Mo Kong nodded and left the Wushuang Immortal Palace. On the other hand, Ling Xiao had no idea that he had been targeted by the second prince. However, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. For the next few days, Ling Xiao stayed in the Yi family temporarily. Yi Liangshui followed the Yi family's old ancestor to the Yi family's ancestral ground. The old ancestor didn't have much time left and was about to die, so he transferred all of his cultivation to Yi Liangshui. Half a month later, in the Yi family's ancestral ground, a figure with a terrifying aura soared into the sky, shaking the entire Yi family. It was Yi Liangshui. Yi Liangshui had come out of seclusion, and his cultivation had reached the immortal king realm. Moreover, he had also obtained the quasi-immortal emperor's origin left behind by the Yi family's old ancestor. It wouldn't be long before he completely refined the quasi-immortal emperor's origin left behind by the Yi family's old ancestor, and his cultivation would directly reach the peak of the immortal king realm. The Yi family's old ancestor had also completely fallen, and the Yi family had fallen into a state of sadness and joy. Although the rebellion had been quelled, Yi Duqing had regained the power of the Yi family, and Yi Liangshui had also become the Yi family's divine son, and suppressed Yi Delu, Yi Dejuan, and the others. However, this time, the Yi family had lost a lot of immortal king experts, and even the Yi family's old ancestor had completely fallen. Originally, in the entire immortal court of fortune, the Yi family could be considered the top everlasting family. Now the Yi family was no different from those ordinary everlasting families, and there were only a few people left. However, the more this was the case, the more the Yi family respected Ling Xiao. Especially Yi Daqing, who had almost regarded Ling Xiao as the savior of the Yi family. Any resources of the Yi family were freely provided to Ling Xiao. Therefore, during the days when Yi Liangshui was in seclusion, Ling Xiao had also obtained a lot of rare treasures, and his cultivation had also become more profound and perfect. On this day, His Highness the Crown Prince came to the Yi family to look for Ling Xiao. "Senior Ling Xiao, how have you been these days?" Li Wuji was modest and courteous as he bowed slightly to Ling Xiao. "Pretty good. Your Highness the Crown Prince, what brings you here this time?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, and he smiled faintly. "That's right. Senior Ling Xiao, there's a grand event in the Fortune Immortal City today. I think Senior Ling Xiao will be interested, so I'm here to go with Senior Ling Xiao." Crown Prince Li Wuji smiled faintly. "Grand event? Oh, I wonder what it is." Ling Xiao asked curiously. "The Heavenly Law auction is starting today. Many rare treasures will appear in the Immortal Dao auction, and even the Eternal Fruit might appear. I think Senior Ling Xiao will be interested." The Crown Prince smiled faintly. "The Heavenly Law auction is about to start. Master, you must go and take a look. Perhaps you'll find many treasures useful to you in the Heavenly Law auction." Yi Liangshui said excitedly before Ling Xiao could say anything. Then, Yi Liangshui explained in detail to Ling Xiao. Behind the Heavenly Law auction was the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. The Heavenly Law Business Alliance was a powerful force that dominated the entire eternal immortal domain. It was also a supergiant. It was said that its foundation was deeper than the Celestial Court of Fortune and the Celestial Court of Truth. Its forces were spread throughout the eternal immortal domain. It was said that wherever there was a human city, there would be a business alliance of 10,000 Dao. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the business alliance of 10,000 paths was, and how much resources and wealth it had. Many precious treasures would appear in every auction. Immortal artifacts, immortal king artifacts, quasi-immortal emperor artifacts. There were even supreme immortal pills. There were all kinds of immortal herbs and precious artifacts. Legend had it that 2 million years ago, someone had even auctioned an eternal emperor artifact in the Heavenly Law auction. Therefore, the auction organized by the Heavenly Law Business Alliance was bound to have countless treasures. The Business Alliance of Immortal Dao. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he nodded slightly. If the Immortal Dao auction was really as Yi Liangshui had said, he was indeed interested. If he could really obtain some precious cultivation items from the auction, it would be of great benefit to his cultivation. "In that case, I'll go with your highness to have a look." Ling Xiao nodded. "That's great," Li Wuji said with a smile. Then he led Ling Xiao and Yi Liangshui out of the Yi family and toward the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. The Heavenly Law Business Alliance was located next to the imperial city of Fortune Immortal City. It occupied an area of a few thousand miles and had a huge manor. There were even supreme experts in the Heavenly Law Business Alliance who had opened up a small world here to be used as the venue for the Immortal Dao auction. Today the Heavenly Law auction was held, and all the experts in the Fortune Immortal City had come to the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. However, to participate in the Heavenly Law auction, one had to have an invitation letter from the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. Without an invitation letter from the Heavenly Law Business Alliance, one would not be able to enter the venue of the Heavenly Law auction, regardless of how wealthy one was or how high one's status was. As the Crown Prince of the Fortune Immortal Court, Li Wuji was naturally a distinguished guest of the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. He was also the most qualified person to participate in the Immortal Dao auction. Therefore, after he took out a few invitation letters that were glowing with immortal light, he and Ling Xiao entered the Heavenly Law Business Alliance without any obstructions. Chapter 34-33. The Heavenly Dao Small World was where the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance held their Heavenly Dao auction. One had to admit that the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance was probably the only organization that could open up a small world just to hold an auction. Within the Heavenly Dao Small World, the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance's guards exuded powerful auras. They were all Immortal King Realm experts. There were even a few figures with obscure auras that were unfathomable. They were all quasi-immortal emperors. In such a place, even those with extraordinary talent could not help but feel a chill in their hearts when they came here. Their attitude immediately became respectful. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had used their own strength to intimidate those so-called geniuses, monstrous geniuses, and supreme youths. When Crown Prince Li Wuji and Ling Xiao arrived at the Heavenly Dao Small World, they received the warmest welcome from the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance. After all, Li Wuji was the successor of the Fortune Immortal Court in name. He was most likely to become the future Emperor Lord of the Fortune Immortal Court. Hence, he was immediately led to the Heavenly No. 1 private room. The Heavenly No. 1 private room was incomparably spacious. The four walls were all cast with celestial light glass. This celestial light glass was incomparably strange. The people inside could see everything outside, but the people outside couldn't see anything inside. Moreover, the celestial light glass could automatically absorb the origin energy of heaven and earth. It could increase one's cultivation speed by several hundred times. Even immortal kings would be able to benefit greatly from it. Needless to say, there were several beautiful true immortal realm maids in the Heavenly No. 1 private room. They were all gentle and lovely. They were incomparably attentive and considerate as they served Crown Prince Li Wuji and Ling Xiao. In the entire Heavenly Dao auction, there were more than a dozen private rooms like this. All of them were floating in the void. The private rooms cast with celestial light glass were a symbol of status and identity. Only the big shots in the eyes of the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance were qualified to enter. Sitting in the private rooms, one could easily see the huge platform below that was shrouded in celestial light. The platform was already filled with people who were participating in the Heavenly Dao auction. The auras of these people were extraordinary. Even the weakest of them was in the true immortal realm. Although they weren't qualified to enter the private rooms, those who were able to participate in the Heavenly Dao auction were all the descendants or elders of the everlasting families and imperishable sections. Rumble. On the platform, the space trembled slightly. In a split second, immortal light became faintly discernible, and propitious vapors rose. An old man in a white robe landed on the high platform. He had a ruddy complexion and white hair. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being, and his aura was unfathomable. Greetings, distinguished guests. Welcome to the Heavenly Law Auction. I'm Situching, an elder of the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance, and I'm also the host of this auction. Today, I'll be bringing many rare treasures to everyone. I hope that everyone will be able to bid for the treasures that they like, so that this trip won't be in vain. Alright, without further ado, the Heavenly Law Auction will now officially begin. That white-robed old man had an extraordinary aura. Ling Xiao could tell at a glance that he was at the 9th heaven of the Immortal King realm. Moreover, he had many powerful immortal artifacts on him. One look and one could tell that he was extraordinary. After Situching chatted with the crowd for a while, he did not waste any time and immediately started today's auction. With a wave of his hand, a beautiful true immortal realm made in jade clothes slowly walked in front of everyone with a jade plate in her hands. On the jade plate, there was a bead that was suffused with chaotic colors. It looked extremely mysterious, as if it contained a real world. It was filled with mysterious laws of the world. One look and one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. This is the first item of today's auction, the Chaotic World Bead. The Pearl of the Primal Chaos World. I'm sure everyone knows that it's a treasure refined by an almighty expert at the peak of the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, after a world is born, or destroyed in the Primal Chaos Sea. It contains a real great world, and it's vast and boundless. Although the greater thousand world inside does not have eternal laws of the Heavenly Dao, it is immortal and indestructible. It can be used as the inheritance foundation of everlasting families and immortal sections. Most importantly, It can be carried around, so there is no need to worry about it being destroyed by enemies. It is the foundation of the everlasting families and immortal sections. The chaotic world bead's starting price is 1 million immortal source stones. Now everyone, please start bidding. Situqing said loudly, and his voice entered everyone's ears. I bid 1 million immortal source stones. I bid 1,200,000 immortal source stones. I bid 1,300,000 immortal source stones. I bid 2 million immortal source stones. As soon as Situqing's voice fell, the sound of bidding rose and fell from the high platform. Everyone's eyes were burning with desire, and they were filled with the desire to win. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji could not help but exclaim softly. I didn't expect that the first item that the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance would auction would be the Chaotic World Bead. This kind of treasure is not common. It requires a peak half-immortal emperor expert who is proficient in space-time laws to find a suitable world in the chaotic sea and refine it. To refine such a bead, even a peak half-immortal emperor expert would have to spend thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. This is an incomparably precious world treasure. Its value is even greater than ordinary half-immortal emperor weapons. Many everlasting families and imperishable great sects like to buy such chaotic world beads as the foundation of their families and sections. After all, as long as a powerful great Tao law or supreme formation is carved on the chaotic world bead, it will become a fortress that is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Even a half-immortal emperor expert would find it difficult to break through. Crown Prince Li Wuji could not help but exclaim. Soon, the price of the chaotic world bead had reached 5 million immortal source stones, and it was still increasing. 10 million immortal source stones. At this moment, a calm and domineering voice rang out from the second heaven box. Suddenly, the entire high platform became silent. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, and involuntarily stopped calling out bids. This was because they all recognized the owner of the voice, the second prince of the creation immortal court, Li Wuxia. According to the legends, the person who possessed the bone of longevity was unparalleled in talent and status. No one was willing to offend him. I didn't expect that it would be my second brother, Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a faint smile. Oh, I heard that Your Highness and the second prince are not on good terms. Your Highness, are you not going to compete? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he said calmly. It's just a chaotic world bead. It's not worth it for me to compete for it. My second brother and I are still waiting for our target. When the time comes, there will naturally be a fierce battle, Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a faint smile. In the second heaven box, the second Prince Li Wuxia was wearing a purple immortal robe. He had an extraordinary aura and looked otherworldly as he sat at the head of the table. On his left and right, there were two young men with powerful auras and noble auras. One of them was wearing a golden dragon robe. He had long golden hair, and his entire body was filled with dragon aura. His eyes seemed to contain the mysterious scene of a divine dragon opening the world and shattering everything. He was the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley, Prince Long. The other person was a young woman dressed in a phoenix robe. She looked graceful, luxurious, and heroic. Although she was extremely beautiful, her face was filled with arrogance, and her expression was incomparably cold. There was a flame mark between her eyebrows. Her aura was extremely hot, and the temperature in the box seemed to have increased significantly. She was the successor of the true phoenix nest, the true phoenix maiden. Prince Long and the true phoenix maiden's cultivation were the same as Li Wuxia's. They had both reached the peak of the ninth heaven of the immortal king realm. They had been invited by the second prince Li Wuxia to participate in the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield, because Li Wuxia had taken out a treasure that they were interested in. Most importantly, they were also here for the eternity fruit in the heavenly ancient battlefield. After all, they also wanted to consume the eternity fruit to break through to the boundary immortal emperor realm. Brother Dragon Emperor, although this chaotic world bead isn't extremely precious, it's still extremely rare. I'll give this treasure to you. I hope you'll like it. Li Wuxia said to Prince Long with a smile. Prince Long was the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley. The dragon tribe had always liked to nurture natural treasures in the small worlds. At the same time, they would pass down their orthodoxy in the small worlds to become the totems of countless living beings. They would use the power of faith to cultivate. Therefore, this chaotic world bead was indeed extremely precious to Prince Long. Hearing Li Wushuang's words, Prince Dragon Emperor's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Thank you, Brother Wushuang, don't worry. You'll definitely win the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield. How can that trash of a brother of yours compare to you? Prince Long nodded with satisfaction. In that case, I'll have to trouble you, Li Wushuang said with a smile. As he had expected, a chaotic world bead was enough to move Prince Long. He had catered to Prince Long's fancy. Then Li Wushuang's gaze fell on the real Phoenix Maiden. He smiled and said, Real Phoenix Maiden, I've heard that there will be an eternal fire essence in the heavenly ancient auction. I'll bid for it and give it to you. Eternal fire essence? At this moment, even the indifferent and arrogant real Phoenix Maiden could not help but be moved. Her eyes were burning with passion. The eternal fire essence was the origin of heavenly Tao left behind by an immortal emperor expert, who cultivated the heavenly Tao of fire. It was extremely precious to alchemists and weapon refiners. It was also extremely important to the real Phoenix Maiden. The eternal fire essence could not only help her true phoenix fire evolve, but it could also help her bloodline atavism. This was an unimaginable opportunity for her. She had not expected to encounter the eternal fire essence here. Thank you, Your Highness. Don't worry, Your Highness. I'll do my best in the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield. The real Phoenix Maiden could not help but cup her fists and say to Li Wushuang. Thank you, Brother Wushuang, Li Wushuang said with a smile. A chaotic world bead and an eternal fire essence were enough to buy Prince Long and the real Phoenix Maiden. It was indeed a good deal. After all, although the immemorial royal families like the Dragon Emperor Valley and the real Phoenix Nest had a deep foundation and a long history, they were not as good as the Creation Immortal Court when it came to treasures. One should know that the Creation Immortal Court's ancestor, Immortal Emperor Creation, was an invincible figure in the Eternal Immortal Domain. He had plundered almost all the treasures in the Eternal Immortal Domain. Although the Creation Immortal Court was very weak now, and was no longer as glorious and powerful as it used to be, but in terms of foundation, it was still not something that ordinary people could compare to. After the second Prince Li Wushuang won the chaotic world bead for 10 million immortal origin stones, the heavenly Tao auction became even more lively. The second, third, and fourth auction items were brought up one after another. Among them were powerful quasi-immortal emperor weapons, precious supreme immortal pills, and king-grade immortal herbs that were almost extinct. These caused the crowd to compete with each other, and they kept shouting out high prices. At the same time, the crowd was very interested in the next auction item. They were full of anticipation. Chapter 34-34. The next item is the Eternal Fire Essence. As Situqing's voice fell, a beautiful female servant slowly walked onto the high platform with a dazzling golden cauldron in her hands. Boom! The cauldron opened, and a dazzling light suddenly gushed out. In an instant, the surrounding void trembled slightly, and a golden flame floated out. That golden flame looked extremely unique. It was like a golden lotus flower, but it also seemed to contain layers of fiery worlds. Although there were immortal Tao seals left behind by supreme experts in the surroundings, they still couldn't stop the flame from trembling slightly. It was as though it was going to break through those seals at any moment and break through the void to escape. It was extremely intelligent. The Eternal Fire Essence was the heavenly Tao origin left behind by an immortal emperor expert, who cultivated the heavenly Tao of fire. It not only allowed one to comprehend the heavenly Tao of fire, but it was also a supreme treasure for alchemists and blacksmiths. The starting price of the Eternal Fire Essence is 10 million immortal source stones. Distinguished guests, please make your bids. Situqing smiled and said in a clear voice. His words immediately caused the breathing of many experts on the high platform to quicken. Their eyes were filled with an incomparably fervent look. They naturally knew how precious the Eternal Fire Gold was. After all, it was the heavenly Tao origin left behind by an immortal emperor, who cultivated the heavenly Tao of fire. This kind of eternal fire essence was extremely rare, and it was hard to find one in 10,000 years. They did not expect that the eternal fire essence would appear at the heavenly Tao auction. Naturally, they did not hesitate and began to bid. I bid 10 million immortal source stones. I bid 12 million immortal source stones. I bid 18 million immortal source stones. I bid 20 million immortal source stones. The shouting of bids on the high platform rose one after another. The eternal fire essence had instantly pushed the atmosphere of the auction to a climax. At this moment, an indifferent and cold voice rang out above the high platform, immediately suppressing everyone's voice. I bid 50 million immortal source stones. Everyone, this eternal fire essence is very important to me. I hope that everyone can give me some face. The voice came from the second heaven box. It was the second prince, Li Wushuang. When the eternal fire essence appeared, the true phoenix maiden involuntarily stood up. Her eyes filled with an incomparable blazing light. She was determined to obtain the eternal flame essence. Therefore, second Prince Li Wushuang had directly shouted out a sky-high price of 50 million immortal origin stones. He wanted to obtain the eternal flame essence so that he could give it to true Phoenix Maiden. After Li Wushuang's voice fell, everyone frowned. Although they also wanted to obtain the eternal fire essence, second Prince Li Wushuang's fame was too resplendent. His innate talents were peerless throughout the ages, and he had a longevity bone. He was considered the most promising person to inherit immortal emperor fortune creation and break through to the immortal emperor realm. No one was willing to offend the second prince, so they all hesitated. I bid 60 million immortal origin stones. At this moment, a calm and mysterious voice rang out from the Sky Room 1. In the private room, Crown Prince Li Wuji looked at Ling Xiao in shock. He never expected Ling Xiao to make such a bid. This eternal flame essence is indeed very useful to me. Ling Xiao seemed to have noticed the Crown Prince's confusion and smiled. There was a world tree in Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. This eternal flame essence could indeed allow the world tree to grow rapidly, allowing him to comprehend the eternal heavenly Tao origin. Therefore, after the eternal flame essence appeared, Ling Xiao immediately sensed the world tree's desire in his sea of consciousness. Therefore, he did not hesitate and directly bid. Senior Ling Xiao, although the eternal flame essence is rare, I'm afraid you'll offend my second brother by bidding for it. The Crown Prince sighed softly. Everyone in the Fortune Immortal City knows that the Crown Prince and the second prince don't get along. Shouldn't you be happy that I offended him? Why do you have such an attitude? Ling Xiao said indifferently. The Crown Prince nodded, then shook his head. Senior Ling Xiao, you're right. My second brother and I have always been in a competitive relationship. Logically speaking, I should be happy that you've offended him. However, my second brother is really arrogant and despotic. I'm afraid he'll harm you because of this. However, if Senior Ling Xiao really likes this eternal flame essence, how about I bid for it and give it to you? The Crown Prince said sincerely. There's no need to trouble your highness. It's just a few immortal source stones. I can still afford it. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, appearing very calm and at ease. He came from the Chaos Sea and had drifted in the Chaos Sea for many years. He had explored many secret realms and even the cave abodes of experts. In his small world, he had accumulated a huge amount of immortal source stones. These immortal source stones were just numbers to him. If he could use them to bid for the eternal flame essence, it would be worth it. On the other side, in the second heaven box, after hearing Ling Xiao's bid, Li Wushuang's expression instantly became extremely gloomy. He did not expect that someone in the first heaven box would dare to compete with him. Moreover, that person was not the Crown Prince. It must be the immortal king expert called Ling Xiao. I bid 70 million immortal source stones. May I ask if the other party is fellow cultivator Ling Xiao? If you give the eternal flame essence to me, I'll be eternally grateful, Li Wushuang said slowly with a cold gaze. That's not necessary. Thank you, Your Highness. This eternal flame essence is also very precious to me. I bid 80 million immortal source stones. Ling Xiao was not moved at all and continued to bid 90 million immortal source stones. The second prince's voice became colder and colder. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. 100 million immortal source stones. Ling Xiao did not show any weakness and continued to bid. In the entire heavenly law auction, it seemed that only the voices of Ling Xiao and the second prince were left. Neither of them was willing to be outdone. Soon, the price of the eternal flame essence had reached a terrifying 200 million immortal source stones. Although the eternal flame essence was precious, 200 million immortal source stones had far exceeded the true price of the eternal flame essence. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and admiration. They did not expect that the immortal king called Ling Xiao would dare to offend the second prince. I bid 300 million immortal source stones. Your Highness, do you still want to continue bidding? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and said leisurely. In the second private room, the second prince, Li Wuxia, smashed the jade table in front of him into powder. His face was ashen and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He was not angry because Ling Xiao had stolen the eternal flame essence. He was angry because Ling Xiao was so fearless. It seemed that Ling Xiao was determined to stand on the side of his big brother, Li Wuji. Such an arrogant and despotic person made his heart boil with killing intent. He could not wait to attack and kill Ling Xiao. Your Highness, there is no need to continue bidding. Since he dares to steal from me, I guarantee that he will die. The true Phoenix Maiden's eyes were cold as she dissuaded Li Wuxia. 300 million immortal source stones was not a small sum to them. Moreover, there were many more treasures in the following auction. If they wasted 300 million immortal source stones on the eternal flame essence, it would not be worth it. The true Phoenix Maiden hated Ling Xiao to the core. Her eyes were filled with killing intent, as if she was about to attack and kill Ling Xiao. True Phoenix Maiden, don't worry. The eternal flame essence is still yours. He can't take it away, the second prince said in an indifferent voice. His eyes were filled with a sharp killing intent. No one had expected that the second prince, Li Wuxia, would actually give up after Ling Xiao bid 300 million immortal origin stones. This was not the second prince's style. Based on the second prince's arrogant and despotic character, shouldn't he fight Ling Xiao to the end? This guy called Ling Xiao is dead for sure. He dares to steal from the second prince. The second prince did not continue bidding. I'm afraid he has already regarded Ling Xiao as a dead man. As long as he is killed, the eternal flame essence will still belong to the second prince. At this time, a veteran immortal king who seemed to have seen through the situation said slowly as he looked in the direction of box number 1 in the void. That's right. This Ling Xiao really thinks that he can be so arrogant just because he has sided with the crown prince. He is really reckless. All these years, the crown prince has been overshadowed by the second prince's brilliance. In the future, the crown prince's chances of inheriting the throne of the Fortune Emperor are probably not as good as the second prince. This Ling Xiao actually dared to intervene in the battle for the throne. No one can save him from this kind of thing. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Their eyes were filled with sympathy and mockery as they looked at the heavens box number 1. After Ling Xiao bid 300 million immortal source stones for the eternal flame essence, he did not bid for the next few items. The following items were more precious than the previous. While everyone was feasting their eyes on them, the competition also became more intense. One treasure after another was sold at a high price. The Heavenly Dao Business Union made a lot of money. Even Situ Qing's face was full of smiles. The next auction item is rather special. Even our Heavenly Law Business Alliance is unable to identify its true origin. However, we can be sure that it is an unimaginable treasure. Moreover, it is very likely to be related to the Eternal Emperor artifact. Therefore, there is no reserve price for this treasure. Everyone is free to bid. Situ Qing said slowly. Situ Qing opened a black box and took out half of a black broken blade. The broken blade looked to be less than 3 feet long, but it seemed to contain a weight of 10,000 pounds. Situ Qing found it difficult to lift it. The broken blade looked extremely demonic. It was filled with an evil aura and a Buddhist light. Anyone who looked at it would feel as if they would be pulled into it. Even their primordial spirit would be completely swallowed. This treasure comes from the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone. It is suspected to be a treasure created by the creatures of the Forbidden Zone. However, it contains the evil aura of the creatures of darkness. It is extremely strange. Even the primordial spirit of a celestial king can be swallowed by it if they are not careful. Now everyone can bid. Situching smiled slightly and then closed the metal box. It was as if the demonic light on the broken blade had a strong influence on him. At this moment, Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of bewilderment. This was because he felt that the world tree in his sea of knowledge was emitting intense fluctuations of desire. The fluctuations were 10 times, no 100 times stronger than when he had encountered the eternal flame essence. This broken blade must have an incomparably magical effect on the world tree. Although Ling Xiao could not see if there was any problem with it, he still decided to bid for it. Chapter 34-35. 1 million immortal source stones. 2 million immortal source stones. 5 million immortal source stones. I bid 10 million immortal source stones. At this moment, the crowd on the high platform had already started to bid. Their eyes were extremely sharp. Although they could not tell what kind of treasure it was able to almost devour the primordial spirit of an immortal king expert with a single glance. It had to be an extremely terrifying treasure. Therefore, they all wanted to bid for it and study it properly. This time, even the second prince Li Wushuang bid 50 million immortal source stones. The second prince Li Wushuang directly called out a sky-high price. After he called out the price, the crowd hesitated. After all, 50 million immortal source stones was not a small amount. It was too risky to use it to buy a treasure of unknown origin. 60 million immortal source stones. Who knew that at this moment, Ling Xiao's voice could be heard from the sky suite number 1 again. At this moment, the crowd was shocked. They all looked at the first heaven box with eyes full of admiration. They did not expect that the immortal king called Ling Xiao would be so daring and not afraid of death. He actually bid again. Moreover, it was after the second prince had just bid. Wasn't he determined to go against the second prince? The second prince's face was already ashen. His eyes were filled with an extremely cold killing intent. I bid 80 million immortal source stones. Ling Xiao, are you determined to go against me? The second prince said coldly. I dare not. Your Highness, this treasure is fated with me. I plan to bid for it and study it properly. If it offends you in any way, please don't mind it. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and continued to bid without hesitation. 100 million immortal source stones. The crowd was also shocked. An item that did not look like a treasure had actually been auctioned for a sky-high price of 100 million immortal source stones. It seemed that Ling Xiao was really filthy rich. There were even some people with bad intentions who looked at the sky number 1 room with greedy gazes. 150 million immortal source stones. Ling Xiao, this treasure is useless to you. However, it is something that I must obtain. Do you really have to fight with me? The second prince's voice was bone-chilling. Everyone could tell that he was thoroughly enraged. The reason why the second prince insisted on bidding for this treasure was that the longevity bone in front of his chest was also vibrating intensely, with an incomparable desire. It was as if that treasure was also extremely attractive to his longevity bone. One had to know that the longevity bone was Li Wushuang's foundation, and his foundation. To be able to make his longevity bone react to it, it must be a supreme treasure. Therefore, the second prince had steeled his heart. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to get it. Second prince, what are you saying? It's pointless. This was an auction, and the highest bidder would win. This treasure is indeed fated with me. 200 million immortal origin stones. Ling Xiao said indifferently. 300 million immortal source stones. Li Wushuang continued to bid. 400 million immortal origin stones. Ling Xiao followed suit. The two of them seemed to have fallen into the same state as before, where they were fighting over the treasures, not giving in at all. In the blink of an eye, Ling Xiao had already bid 900 million immortal origin stones. Li Wushuang's face was incomparably ashen, and his eyes were surging with monstrous killing intent. He had already determined that Ling Xiao was deliberately going against him. He did not believe that this treasure, which no one could recognize, would have any effect on Ling Xiao. Therefore, There was only one possibility, and that was that Ling Xiao had received instructions from the crown prince to deliberately make things difficult for him. However, Li Wushuang was now in a difficult position. This treasure was extremely attractive to his bone of longevity. He wanted nothing more than to snatch it away from the bone of longevity. However, if he continued to bid, the immortal origin stones he had would not be enough to compete for the last treasure. Thinking of this, Li Wushuang's hatred and killing intent towards Ling Xiao became even more intense. This esteemed guest has bid 900 million immortal origin stones. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? Situqing smiled slightly. His mouth was almost crooked from smiling. Although this treasure was extremely precious, none of the appraisers in the Heavenly Law Business Alliance could identify its origin. Now that it was placed in the auction, they hoped that it could be sold at a high price. The sky-high price of 900 million immortal origin stones had already far exceeded Situqing's expectations, and he was extremely satisfied. The reason he asked again was mainly because he was looking at the second heaven box, hoping that the second prince would continue to bid. But what disappointed him was that the second private room fell silent, and the second prince did not make any more bids. In that case, this treasure is sold at 900 million immortal origin stones, and it goes to this esteemed guest. Situqing smiled slightly and announced the final result. The auction continued, and one treasure after another was taken out. Many people bid, and most of them had won something. As time went by, the auction was nearing its end. Everyone's expression became more and more excited and expectant. This was because they all knew that the next item to be auctioned was the final treasure of the Heavenly Law auction. Although the final treasures of each auction were different, what was certain was that they were all incomparably precious. Many people had come for these final treasures. I believe that everyone is looking forward to the final treasure of this auction. That's right, the next item to be auctioned is the 3 final treasures. These 3 treasures have been carefully selected by the Heavenly Law Business Alliance, and they are extremely precious. I'm sure that everyone will not have made this trip in vain. Alright, let's begin the auction of the first final treasure. Situqing smiled slightly and kept everyone in suspense. Celestial light shone brightly in his palm, and a jade box appeared. The jade box exuded a blazing and dazzling brilliance, and it was as dazzling as the sun. It was actually carved from the absolute yang celestial jade, which was rarely seen in 10,000 years. This was a supreme celestial material used to refine a quasi-immortal emperor weapon, and it was extremely precious. However, it was used as a box to store treasures. Everyone was looking forward to the first final treasure. Slowly opening the jade box, bright celestial light gushed out, and auspicious qi filled the air. At the same time, a rich fragrance filled the air, and various mysterious images appeared in the void. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and endless vitality bloomed, as if billions of living beings were born in an instant. Billions of worlds were born and destroyed, and it looked extremely strange. Is that an emperor-grade celestial elixir? Someone cried out in surprise. His voice was trembling and shocked, and even his breathing became extremely rapid. Everyone was shocked, and they could not help but stand up. A golden celestial elixir floated out of the jade box, and it exuded a powerful and mysterious dragon's might, causing the void to tremble slightly. Real dragon celestial elixir? In heavenly room number 2, Prince Long, who looked indifferent, suddenly stood up. His breathing became rapid, and his eyes were filled with a blazing light. No, it's not a complete real dragon celestial elixir, and its medicinal efficacy has been greatly reduced. It can only be considered a quasi-emperor grade celestial elixir. Even so, if this quasi-emperor grade celestial elixir falls into my hands, it will allow me to accumulate an unparalleled foundation, and even allow my bloodline to revert to its ancestor. It's not impossible for me to break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Although Prince Long's eyes were filled with disappointment, his body was still trembling with excitement. There was a voice in his heart telling him that he must obtain this celestial elixir at all costs. Everyone, this is the real dragon celestial elixir. It was originally an emperor-grade elixir, but it was stored in a relic cave for countless eras, and its medicinal efficacy was greatly reduced. Our Heavenly Tao Business Alliance spent a lot of effort to cultivate it and restore its vitality. Now it's a quasi-emperor grade celestial elixir. I believe I don't need to say more, and everyone knows its value. The starting price is 100 million celestial source stones. Everyone please start bidding. Situ Ching said with a smile, as if he was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. 300 million celestial source stones. In Heavenly Room number 2, Prince Long was the first to bid, and he was determined to get it. At the same time, his dragon's might overflowed from his body, causing the void to tremble violently. I'm the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley, Prince Long. Please give me some face. Prince Long added indifferently, and there was a hint of threat in his voice. The people on the high platform who wanted to bid hesitated at this moment. Prince Long was extremely famous, and was a famous demon-level genius in the immortal realms. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to offend him. For a moment, no one dared to bid. So what if you're Prince Long? This is the Heavenly Tao auction. The highest bidder will get it. Are you trying to bully others? I bid 500 million celestial source stones. At this moment, a charming lady's voice rang out. The voice came from one of the rooms in the void. Although the voice sounded mysterious, the aura was not inferior to Prince Long's. It seemed like she was also a young genius. This person did not give Prince Long any face and directly bid. This lady is right. The highest bidder will get it. I bid 600 million celestial source stones. In Heavenly Room number 1, Crown Prince Li Wuji also bid. His voice was gentle and elegant, and it gave off a refreshing feeling. At this moment, everyone was slightly shocked. They had almost forgotten that the Crown Prince was also in Heavenly Room number 1. Speaking of which, it was the Crown Prince's first time bidding. Although Ling Xiao had bid a few times for the treasures before, Li Wuji did not bid. They all knew that Crown Prince Li Wuji was planning something big, and his target was probably one of the 3 treasures. I bid 900 million celestial source stones. In Heavenly Tao Auction Room number 2, Prince Long's expression was extremely cold as he decisively bid a higher price. 1 billion celestial source stones. Crown Prince Li Wuji followed closely behind. 5 billion celestial source stones. The mysterious lady in the room seemed to be very rich. She directly bid 5 billion celestial source stones, showing that she was determined to get the true dragon celestial herb. However, Ling Xiao did not have any intention of bidding. Although a first-grade celestial herb was precious, he had a true supreme-grade celestial herb. The Qilin Celestial King was lying at his feet, lazily rolling around. He would occasionally look at the Boundary Emperor-grade celestial herb in the void with a hint of disdain and mockery. The appearance of this quasi-emperor-grade celestial herb pushed the atmosphere of the auction to another climax. Prince Long, Crown Prince Li Wuji, and the mysterious lady did not give in at all. Soon, the price of the Boundary Emperor grade celestial herb had reached an extremely high level. Chapter 34-36. 10 billion immortal source stones. An ethereal voice was heard in the void, raising the price of the true dragon celestial elixir to a sky-high level. At this moment, even the Prince of the Dragon Emperor and the Crown Prince Li Wuji were in disbelief. The person who made the bid was the mysterious girl in the private room. 10 billion immortal source stones had far exceeded the true value of a Boundary Emperor grade celestial herb. It was even possible to buy 2 Boundary Emperor grade celestial herbs. Although Crown Prince Li Wuji really wanted this true dragon celestial herb, he shook his head with a wry smile and gave up when he saw the ridiculous price. Prince Long's face turned pale, and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. The true dragon celestial herb was extremely important to him, as it could allow his bloodline to revert to its ancestor and reach an unprecedented level. However, the mysterious girl had snatched his Boundary Emperor grade celestial herb. She was robbing him of his life. His eyes immediately revealed a monstrous killing intent. Who are you? This true dragon celestial herb is extremely important to me. If you're willing to give it to me, I can make you my follower. Prince Long stared at the mysterious private room and said coldly, I'll be your follower. Are you worthy? A mocking voice came from the private room. It was filled with arrogance, as if the person did not take Prince Long seriously. Damn it! In the second skybox, Prince Long was enraged, and a terrifying aura gushed out of him. Your Highness, I'll be grateful if you can help me find out who this person is. Prince Long looked at second Prince Li Wushuang and said in a cold voice. It shouldn't be a difficult task. However, Brother Long, this girl can easily take out 10 billion immortal source stones. I'm afraid she's not an ordinary person. I advise you not to act rashly until I find out who she is. Li Wushuang's eyes flashed as he said slowly. No matter how noble she is, she's just a descendant of an everlasting family or an immortal sect. How can she be compared to the immemorial royal family? Thank you for your kindness. If I don't kill her after I find out who she is, I won't be able to vent my anger. Prince Long sneered and said viciously, Your Highness, do you know who this woman is? On the other side, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he slowly asked the Crown Prince in the Sky Room 1. I don't know. That woman's background is very mysterious. I've never heard of any young Nine Heavens Supremes coming to the Fortune Immortal Court. However, after the auction is over, I will ask the people of the Heavenly Dao Business Union about it, and I should be able to find out. Crown Prince Li Wuji shook his head. He was also very curious. To be able to take out tens of billions of immortal origin stones so easily, this person's identity was most likely no small matter. Maybe he was one of those so-called inheritors of the forbidden areas. Or rather, those powerful young paragons of the central immortal domain. In the end, the true dragon celestial herb was sold for a sky-high price of 10 billion immortal origin stones. This made the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance's elder, Situching, grin from ear to ear. His eyes were filled with excitement. The true dragon celestial elixir had indeed made the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance rich. Now, let's move on to the second item of the auction. Situching cleared his throat, looked at the crowd, and continued speaking. Light flickered in Situching's palm. Immortal light lingered, and an ancient stone statue with a blurry face appeared. It was as black as ink. The stone statue looked to be only 3 feet tall, but it contained a strange demonic power. It made people feel as if their minds were about to be completely sucked into it when they looked at it. Everyone's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. They did not see anything extraordinary about this stone statue. Apart from its strange aura, it did not look like any of the treasures that were auctioned before. They did not know why this stone statue could be the final item of the auction, and why the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance took it out so seriously. Everyone, perhaps you are very confused. What kind of treasure is this? This is a special treasure that my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance brought back from the No Man's Land. Back then, for this treasure, my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance lost 9 immortal kings, and even a quasi-heavenly emperor. As soon as Situching's voice fell, it immediately caused the crowd to boil. A stone statue that looks very ancient was actually able to cause the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance to lose a quasi-immortal emperor and 9 immortal kings. It can be seen that the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance was really determined to obtain this treasure. It seems like this stone statue is really extraordinary. Everyone secretly guessed. However, they were even more curious. What kind of treasure was this ancient stone statue? The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had paid such a high price, so why would they take it out now? Everyone must be very curious. Why would my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance take it out for auction? It's because even the quasi-immortal emperors of my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance are unable to analyze the secret of this stone statue. However, one thing is certain. This stone statue is related to the inheritance of an immortal emperor. If we can solve the secret of this stone statue, we might be able to obtain the complete inheritance of an immortal emperor. That's the supreme path to the immortal emperor realm. Don't you think this item is precious? Situching smiled slightly. His words immediately caused everyone to tremble. Their breathing quickened, and their eyes were filled with incomparable passion. It was related to the inheritance of an immortal emperor. It should be known that the so-called immortal emperors were all the strongest in the eternal celestial realm. They ruled over 10,000 miles of territory, were invincible, and had suppressed an era. They were amazing to the extreme. Being able to become an immortal emperor meant that they could establish an eternal celestial court or an immortal emperor clan. What kind of glory was that? An immortal emperor represented invincibility and the strongest. Although the quasi-immortal emperors and immortal emperors were only one realm apart, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Even if there were hundreds or thousands of quasi-immortal emperors, it would be difficult for them to be a match for an immortal emperor. They were no longer on the same level. An immortal emperor controlled the eternal heavenly Tao, and his strength was incomparably powerful. It was not something that ordinary celestial kings or quasi-immortal emperors could contend against. Situqing was very satisfied with the expressions on everyone's faces. After looking around at the crowd, he slowly said, "This black stone statue is auctioned with heavenly Tao source crystals instead of immortal source stones. The starting price is 10 heavenly Tao source crystals. 100 heavenly Tao source crystals." As soon as Situqing finished speaking, a resolute and decisive voice resounded in the venue of the heavenly law auction. That voice was filled with determination to obtain the item. Everyone was slightly taken aback. They suddenly realized that the person who made the bid was the mysterious young lady, who had competed with Prince Long for the True Dragon Celestial Herb. Everyone was also extremely shocked. They did not expect the mysterious young lady to be so wealthy that she could directly take out 100 heavenly Tao source crystals. One should know that the heavenly Tao source crystal was extremely precious. It was a strange crystal that contained the eternal heavenly Tao origin energy. Its value was immeasurable. Heavenly Tao source crystals would only appear in places where the heavenly Tao origin energy was born, or in some ancient mystery realms. After a quasi-immortal emperor or celestial emperor died, the surrounding area would be filled with eternal heavenly Tao runes. It was possible that the heavenly Tao source crystals would be born there. From this, one could see how precious the heavenly Tao source crystals were. According to the exchange rate, 100 million immortal source stones could be exchanged for one heavenly Tao source crystal. However, in reality, those who own the heavenly Tao source crystal would never exchange it for immortal source stones. That was because the immortal source stones might be quite useful to celestial kings. However, for quasi-immortal emperors or celestial emperors, they had to use the heavenly Tao source crystals to cultivate. Therefore, if one were to exchange it on the market, one heavenly Tao source crystal could be exchanged for 200 to 300 million immortal source stones. Very few people would be willing to do so. However, the mysterious young lady had just opened her mouth and bid 100 heavenly Tao source crystals. That was almost equivalent to 20 to 30 billion immortal source stones. It would be difficult to find someone who was so wealthy in the entire creation immortal court. In the void, in a private room, a young lady who was about 20 years old and wearing a red dress sat on a huge crystal chair. Her face was incomparably beautiful. She looked extremely perfect, as if she was the masterpiece of the Creator. On her body, there was both the innocence of a young girl and the majesty of an emperor. She was shrouded in a mysterious radiance. She looked high and mighty, like a supreme goddess from the 9 heavens. One look at her, and one could not help but feel the urge to worship her. Behind the young lady in the red dress stood an old man with white hair and a white beard. He held a walking stick in his hand. If one did not look at him with the naked eye, they would not be able to detect any trace of him. It was as if he did not exist in this space-time. His strength was unfathomable. Little princess, I'm afraid they will know that this is a good thing. When the time comes, they will inevitably use up a lot of heavenly Tao source crystals. The old man smiled bitterly and said helplessly, Grandpa Tree, that is the divine statue of the Radiant's immortal emperor. Even if you give it to them, they won't be able to unravel its secrets. Didn't you see that even the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance had to pay such a huge price to auction it? Only I, who have the Radiant's sovereign physique, can unravel its secrets. When I get the Radiant's immortal emperor's inheritance and return to the Radiant's immortal court, I will definitely give my brother, the Crown Prince, a good beating. The young lady in the red dress said proudly and confidently. It turned out that her true identity was the little princess of the Radiant's immortal court, Di Hongwan. This name was known by everyone in the central immortal domain. Legend had it that the little princess of the Radiant's immortal court, by Hongwuan, was born with 9 suns in the sky. Endless radiance shrouded the Radiant's immortal court. Auspicious energy rose and purple energy spread for 10,000 miles. All kinds of mysterious phenomena appeared. It turned out that the little princess of the Radiant's immortal court, Di Hongwuan, had the legendary Radiant's sovereign physique. The Radiant's sovereign physique was a supreme physique that was on par with the Radiant's chaotic physique. The crown prince of the Radiant's immortal court had the Radiant's chaotic physique. Therefore, Di Hongwuan and the crown prince of the Radiant's immortal court were known as the 2 peerless prides of the Radiant's immortal court. At the same time, Di Hongwuan was extremely beautiful. She was one of the top 10 fairies in the central immortal domain. Countless young primes, peerless geniuses, and even the descendants of the everlasting families and undying beings were infatuated with her. Di Hongwuan left the Radiant's immortal court and came to the Creation immortal court because she heard about the Radiant's immortal emperor's inheritance and followed him all the way here. The black stone statue at the auction was her real target this time, so she was determined to get it. She had to get it. Chapter 34-37. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he let out a soft exclamation of surprise in the Sky Room 1. Although the black stone statue on the high platform looked a little strange, the world tree in Ling Zhao's mind trembled slightly, and one of its leaves shone brightly. Vaguely, Ling Zhao felt as though he could see through the black stone statue's skin and see the essence of the stone statue. Boundless light bloomed from the black stone statue, as if it had given birth to millions of radiant worlds in an instant. A figure with a terrifying aura stood in the middle of the countless radiant worlds, as if he was the god of the radiant world, worshipped by millions of radiant beings. His aura was mysterious and unfathomable. His finger was sparkling and translucent, and it seemed to be vaguely pointing in an unknown and unfamiliar direction. Boundless light. Could this be a stone statue left behind by the radiant immortal emperor? It seems like the place that the figure is pointing to might be the inheritance of the radiant immortal emperor. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he made up his mind. He had to win the bid for this black stone statue. Senior Ling Xiao, I'm almost certain that the person in the box is a big shot from the Celestial Court. I just don't know which Celestial Court person has come to our Fortune Immortal City. Li Wuji's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Someone from the Celestial Court? So what? This is the venue of the Heavenly Law Auction. The highest bidder wins. Your Highness, that stone statue is obviously not an ordinary item. Are you not going to bid for it? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Bid for it? Senior Ling Xiao, I only have a few dozen Heavenly Law Source crystals in total. I have to keep them for my own cultivation. How can I compete with her? Li Wuji smiled bitterly as a light flashed in his palm. A crystal the size of a cobblestone appeared. It was surrounded by celestial light, and emitted a mysterious Taoist rhyme as if it contained the eternal heavenly law origin. It was obviously not an ordinary item. Is this the heavenly law source crystal? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a strange expression. He had many celestial origin stones, but he did not have any heavenly law source crystals. His original intention was to use immortal origin stones to exchange for some heavenly Tao source crystals from Crown Prince Li Wuji, and then try to bid for the stone statue. However, when he saw the crystal in Crown Prince Li Wuji's hand, his expression turned strange. That's right, this is a heavenly Tao origin crystal. It contains the quintessence energy of the eternal heavenly Tao, and it's extremely precious. It can be used by quasi-immortal emperors and immortal emperors to cultivate. Even I don't have many. However, if Senior Ling Xiao needs it, perhaps I can take some out and give it to you. Li Wuji nodded and said. If this is the heavenly Tao origin crystal, I might still have some in stock. It should be enough to auction off this stone statue. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He suddenly recalled that when the Yorwild's world had been promoted to an Everworld, it had been blessed by the eternal heavenly Tao essence. Boundless heavenly Tao essence power had descended, forming countless such crystals in the Yorwild's world. There were hundreds of thousands of them. When Ling Xiao left the Yorwild's world and headed to the eternal immortal domain, he had brought these crystals with him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break through from the first heaven of the immortal king realm to the peak of the ninth heaven of the immortal king realm in such a short time. The main reason for this was that he had a large number of heavenly Dao origin crystals. Now he had more than 100,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals, neatly arranged in his pocket world. If this was the heavenly Dao origin crystal, then Ling Xiao was probably a tycoon. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji could not compare to him. When the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, Di Hongwuan, bid 100 heavenly Dao origin crystals, some people saw the value of the stone statue and raised the price several times. However, no matter how high the bids were, Di Hongwuan continued to bid, as if she was determined to win. In the end, some people gave up. The price of the black stone statue was raised to 300 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Grandpa Tree, no one will dare to compete with me for the radiant stone statue now. In the private room, Di Hongwuan's red and blue eyes were filled with pride. She revealed a childlike craftiness as she spoke to the elder beside her. Unexpectedly at this moment, a calm and indifferent voice suddenly rang out. I bid 1,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Ling Xiao shouted. In the private room, Di Hongwuan's face instantly turned extremely ugly. She had just said that no one would compete with her for the radiant stone statue. Unexpectedly, someone made a bid in the next moment. Moreover, it was a sky-high price of 1,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Damn it, who is it? How dare he compete with me? If I find out, I will definitely smash his head. Di Hongwuan pouted and said angrily. That voice seems to be coming from Crown Prince Li Wuji's private room. Isn't that the person who competed with Prince Long and True Phoenix for the treasure just now? Ling Xiao. Di Hongwuan's eyes flashed as she spoke through gritted teeth. Her goal was the radiant stone statue, so she could not give up no matter what. At this moment, she was practically clenching her teeth and bidding. I bid 1,100 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Di Hongwuan's voice rang out from the private room. However, from this voice, everyone could hear a hint of gnashing teeth. It seemed that the mysterious girl was very unhappy with Ling Xiao. 2,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Ling Xiao's voice was very calm as he continued to bid. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Those were heavenly Dao origin crystals, which contained the eternal heavenly Dao origin energy. 2,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals, in terms of real value, were equivalent to 200 billion celestial origin stones. Who exactly was Ling Xiao? How could he be so wealthy? At this moment, even Di Hongwuan was shocked. She did not expect that in this remote celestial realm, there would be someone more generous than her. 2,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals were taken out just like that. Grandpa Tree, what should I do? I only have 3,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. I feel like I can't protect the radiant stone statue today. Di Hongwuan looked at the elder beside her and said anxiously. Little princess, I still have 2,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals here. You can take them. The elder smiled bitterly. He did not expect that in the creation celestial court, there would be someone who could take out 2,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals so casually. No, Grandpa Tree, I can't use your heavenly Dao origin crystals. I want to see who exactly this guy is, to actually dare to snatch something from this princess. I bid 3,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Di Hongwuan gritted her teeth and continued to bid. This time, she had practically emptied her pockets and brought out all the heavenly way source crystals she had. Her goal was to frighten Ling Xiao so that he would not dare to bid again. However, she was still disappointed in the end. 5,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Ling Xiao directly called out a sky-high price. In an instant, everyone was shocked and excited. 5,000 heavenly Dao origin crystals. Apart from the Emperor Lord of the Creation Celestial Court, who else could take out such a huge amount of wealth? Those were heavenly Dao origin crystals, treasures that contain the power of the heavenly Dao. Even a quasi-celestial emperor could not easily take out thousands of heavenly Dao origin crystals. It's over, it's over. The light stone statue has been snatched by this damn bastard. Di Hongwan sat on the crystal chair, her eyes filled with disappointment and unwillingness. At this moment, even with the 2,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals that Grandpa Tree had given her, she could not buy the light stone statue. However, her heart was filled with unwillingness, and she firmly remembered Ling Zhao's name. Little princess, don't worry. After the auction is over, I will personally help you obtain the light stone statue. Then, we will directly leave the creation celestial court. The elder said slowly to Di Hongwan. Snatch it. That's a good idea. Grandpa Tree, capture that Ling Xiao for me. Humph, how dare he snatch my things. I will definitely teach him a lesson. Di Hongwan gritted her teeth at the thought of Ling Xiao. 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals. Is there anyone else who wants to continue bidding? Situqing was also extremely shocked. 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals was not a small amount to him. He had originally thought that the stone statue could be auctioned for 400 to 500 heavenly Tao origin crystals. However, he did not expect that it would be auctioned for 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals. At this moment, he was overjoyed. Situqing pretended to ask a few questions. After seeing that no one else wanted to bid, he finally announced that the black stone statue belonged to Ling Xiao. Senior Ling Xiao, I did not expect you to be the one who hid your strength so well. 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals just like that. Crown Prince Li Wuji also sighed softly. However, when he thought of the rumors about Ling Xiao, he could not help but be moved. If that's the case, Ling Xiao must have really obtained the inheritance of the origin celestial emperor. Perhaps these heavenly Tao source crystals were obtained from the origin celestial emperor's place of inheritance? Crown Prince Li Wuji thought to himself. Next is the final supreme treasure. Situqing smiled slightly. Light flashed in his palm, and a dazzling golden box appeared. After opening the box, a 2-story pagoda with black light emanating from it appeared. It looked a little strange. At this moment, Li Wuji and Li Wushuang both trembled and stood up at the same time. Their eyes were filled with excitement and determination to get it. This treasure was their goal this time. It was also the supreme treasure that they had to obtain at all costs. This was because this was the fragment of the Eternal Emperor weapon of the Creation Celestial Court's ancestor. Although it did not seem to be very valuable, it had a special meaning to the Creation Celestial Court. Both Li Wuji and Li Wushuang wanted to take back this treasure and return it to the Creation Celestial Court's ancestral land. The final supreme treasure is the supreme imperial weapon of the Creation Celestial Emperor, a fragment of the primordial fortune pagoda. It's also the largest fragment. I don't need to say more about its value. The starting price is 10 billion immortal origin stones. Everyone please bid freely. Situqing smiled slightly. His eyes were filled with deep meaning as he looked at the heavenly number 1 and heavenly number 2 rooms. 30 billion immortal origin stones. In the heavenly number 1 room, Crown Prince Li Wuji was the first to bid. 50 billion immortal origin stones. Li Wushuang was not to be outdone. He followed closely behind and bid. 80 billion immortal origin stones. 100 billion immortal origin stones. 150 billion immortal origin stones. Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang seemed to have put in a lot of effort. They were determined to obtain it, and began to bid crazily. The entire heavenly law auction seemed to have become Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's personal performance. Chapter 34-38. The competition between Li Wuji and Li Wushuang was not only a competition between the Crown Prince and Second Prince, but also a competition between the two strongest factions in the Creation Immortal Court. The experts on the high platform all knew the significance of the Primordial Blessings Tower fragment. Therefore, no one dared to bid for it. Only Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's voices continued to ring out in the auction hall. The two of them did not give in, and soon, the price of the Primordial Fortune Tower fragment had reached an astronomical figure. 500 billion immortal origin stones. Second Prince Li Wushuang said decisively. This was a fragment of the Primordial Fortune Tower. The Primordial Fortune Tower was the Eternal Emperor artifact of the Creation Immortal Emperor, and held an extraordinary significance to the creation immortal court. If Li Wuxuang could bring back the primordial fortune tower fragment, perhaps the position of Crown Prince would be moved. Crown Prince Li Wuji's expression was somewhat ugly in the number 1 skybox. He had only brought 500 billion immortal origin stones this time, and his goal was to obtain the primordial fortune tower fragment. However, he had not expected Li Wuxuang to be so rich and overbearing. He had shouted out 500 billion immortal origin stones without even blinking. Senior Ling Xiao, can you lend me some heavenly Dao source crystals? I will definitely repay you in the future. However, if Senior Ling Xiao does not have any heavenly Dao source crystals, then forget it. Crown Prince Li Wuji said to Ling Xiao with difficulty. His eyes were filled with embarrassment. This time, he had originally planned to rope in Ling Xiao. He even thought that if he encountered any treasures that Ling Xiao liked in the Heavenly Law auction, he would help Ling Xiao bid for them. However, he had not expected Ling Xiao to be so rich and overbearing. He had taken out heavenly Dao source crystals just like that. Now he even had to ask Ling Xiao to lend him some heavenly Dao source crystals. No problem. How many heavenly Dao source crystals does your highness need? Is 10,000 enough? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said indifferently. Crown Prince Li Wuji was somewhat shocked. He had been extremely nervous, not knowing if Ling Xiao had any more heavenly Dao source crystals to lend him. However, he had not expected Ling Xiao to agree so readily and offer 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals right off the bat. This completely stunned him. Enough. Enough. Senior Ling Xiao, thank you for your generosity. Wuji will never forget your kindness. Li Wuji's eyes were filled with gratitude. Then, as if he had made a decision, he gritted his teeth and took out a piece of flawless white jade from his storage space, passing it to Ling Xiao. Senior Ling Xiao, this is one of the 3 supreme sword arts of the eternal immortal domains, the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying art. This was a peerless sword art comparable to a peerless immortal emperor's taboo art. Although it was incomplete, its value was immeasurable. It was equivalent to 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals. Now I'll give it to Senior Ling Xiao. Crown Prince Li Wuji said resolutely. Heaven-punishing Dao-slaying formula? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, revealing a trace of shock. He had never imagined that Li Wuji would have such a supreme treasure in his hands. The heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation was one of the 3 boundless sword arts of the eternal immortal domains. According to legend, when cultivated to the pinnacle, one could slay an immortal emperor. There was no reason for Ling Xiao to refuse the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation. Although it was an incomplete version of the heaven-destroying/Dao formula, it was enough for him to comprehend the supreme way of the sword. Then he could integrate it into his body and strengthen his foundation. If he could successfully cultivate the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation, he would have another trump card. Then, as an immortal king, it would be easy for him to kill a quasi-immortal emperor. Many thanks, Your Highness. This heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation is of great use to me. I can't take advantage of you for free. Take 20,000 heavenly Dao source crystals as my payment for the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he took out another 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals and handed them to Li Wuji. In that case, I'll accept them. Li Wuji nodded, but at the same time, he felt that it was a pity. Although 20,000 heavenly Dao source crystals were priceless, he had hoped that Ling Xiao would owe him a favor. Ling Xiao had used 20,000 heavenly Dao source crystals to purchase the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation, because he didn't want to owe anyone a favor. Li Wuji vaguely felt that a favor from Ling Xiao was much more valuable than the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation. 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals. Li Wuji's voice was extremely calm in Heaven Room Number 1. However, it was like a thunderclap that exploded on the high platform. In Heaven Room Number 2, Li Wuxuang's face turned pale. He had spent almost all of his savings to bid 500 billion celestial origin stones. When he saw that Li Wuji had not bid for a long time in Heaven Room Number 1, he had thought that the primordial fortune pagoda fragment was already in his pocket. However, he had not expected Li Wuji to bid 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals in the blink of an eye. The value of 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals was equivalent to 2 trillion celestial origin stones, or even more. He glanced at Prince Dragon Emperor and True Phoenix Maiden beside him. Although she was unhappy that Ling Xiao had snatched her radiant stone statue, she did not like the second prince. Moreover, she did not have 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals. Li Wushuang had asked to borrow 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals. Wasn't he humiliating her? Di Hongyuan naturally did not treat him well. Li Wushuang's face was livid, and his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent after failing to borrow the heavenly Dao source crystals and being scolded by Di Hongyuan. Devil Master, check her background for me. If I find out who she is, don't blame me for being rude. Li Wushuang's voice was bone-chilling. In the end he chose to give up. Situ Qing was stunned at this moment. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had taken out the fragment of the Primordial Fortune Pagoda and auctioned it in the Creation Immortal City to ruthlessly extort a sum of money from the Creation Immortal Court. However, he did not expect that a mere fragment of an Eternal Emperor artifact could be auctioned for 10,000 Heavenly Dao Source crystals. Today's harvest was too great. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had earned a lot. Situ Qing did not hesitate and immediately announced the result. The fragment of the Primordial Fortune Pagoda was won by Crown Prince Li Wuji for 10,000 Heavenly Dao Source crystals. Thank you everyone for participating in this Heavenly Dao auction. I also hope that everyone can bid for the treasures that they like. Today's auction ends here. We will meet again if fate wills it. Situ Qing smiled and announced the end of the Heavenly Dao auction. Following that, the Heavenly Dao auctions experts went to the various private rooms to settle the accounts with the experts who had won the auction. This time, Ling Xiao had obtained the Eternal Flame Essence and the Light Stone statue. It could be considered a great harvest. As for Crown Prince Li Wuji, he had also obtained the fragment of the Primordial Fortune Pagoda. One could imagine that as long as he handed it over to the Fortune Emperor Lord, his position as the Crown Prince would become even more secure. Ling Xiao, get out here. Hand over the Eternal Fire Essence or die. At this moment, an incomparably cold voice rang out. Blazing flames rose and a wave of killing intent enveloped the room. It was the True Phoenix Maiden. The True Phoenix Maiden's face was incomparably cold, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. She was not willing to let Ling Xiao snatch the Eternal Fire Essence away. Therefore, when she heard that the auction had ended, she immediately made things difficult for Ling Xiao. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.